Hello,
Oh, hello.
I'm Sammi,
And I'm Steve.
and you're listening to Roseplate Special, the most dramatic, villain editingist, dating celebrities inist, quoting Finding Nemoingist recap podcast of The Bachelor ever.
Ever.
And we have a special episode for you today that I've been dying to do for I feel like I've been talking about doing this for 2 years.
At least 2 years.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry about that, everyone, but
Yeah.
I am a woman of my word. It just sometimes it takes a long time for me to deliver. Um,
Mhm.
and we today are going to be covering I Didn't Come Here to Make Friends. And as a bonus, I also rewatched the season that Courtney was on to get a fresh perspective of what that season was like. So
Mhm.
and I'm sleep deprived right now, so I'll probably forget everything, but I do have bookmarks. I do have bookmarks. I pulled up the Kindle, cloud reader, and I've got, bookmarks on a bunch of things that Courtney said, so hopefully that'll, spark my memory.
Mhm.
But listen, my semester just ended. I finished grading on Thursday, and I'm gonna say, I had a great accomplishment of getting a 4.0 this semester, so thank you. I could balance.
Congratulations.
Thank you. The Bachelor and getting good grades at the same time. But my best accomplishment so far was my professor I sent him an email just thanking him for the class and whatever. And, I learned a
Mhm.
lot. It piqued my interest, whatever. Hopefully we cross paths and I'll keep you posted on this research that I'm doing that he found interesting. And he was like, yeah, for sure. And definitely keep me in the loop for everything. And then he also said, P.S. You always had the coolest outfits.
It's true.
Just saying. Yeah, this was one of the first ones I wore in class, and he was like, "Nice jumpsuit." And I was like, "Thanks." And then I was like, "I need to dress for this class every time." And I
Mhm.
really tried to show up every class wearing something different and interesting, and it made an impression. So, listen, academics are important, but
Fashion
that
is
was
also
honestly
important.
that was, the highlight of my semester. I was like, "No other professor gives a shit what I wear to class," and he was always like, "Oh my gosh, yes." And then I had done my nail and he's like, "And your nails match?" I can't That's amazing. And I was like, "Thank
See?
you. Thank you
Well,
so
this is
much."
like when I first met you in grad school. I knew we were gonna be friends because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, look, it's in real life Miss Frizzle." Like, I can't wait to hang out with her. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, yeah, as advertised. I also did just get my nails done today. Let's see if that'll focus.
Ooh,
The
little green
nailies.
action, little
Yeah,
sparkle.
they're a little sparkly, yeah. Pretty nice, because tomorrow I will be streaming. I'll try to post this tonight so that, if you are around tomorrow, you'll
Mhm.
actually see it. If you go to twitch.tv/Sammi Ditto, SAMMI I'll be streaming for 12 hours, and I'm gonna play Zelda hopefully the whole
Whoa.
time. And, I've got a green shirt that I got from this company called Raygun. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They have, really good shirts. And, it says, "I paused Zelda to be here." So really excited to wear that shirt tomorrow. Anyway, that's exciting. So what's been going on with you since we wrapped our last season?
Oh my god, I whole lot of nothing really. Yeah, so I was
Snooze.
teaching and that wrapped up a couple of weeks ago, so that's about it. That's
That's
it.
it. Wow.
I've just been trying to, you know, leisurely read a nice bachelor book and enjoy my time off from reality TV, indulge
Yes.
in the other shows that I enjoy, a lot of Below Deck, a lot of
Oh yeah.
Salt Lake City Real Housewives, the good
Nice.
stuff. I've been nee
I gotta catch up. I'm so behind on Salt Lake City. I'm behind on that and Potomac, but I did see the infamous video
okay.
of Karen Huger, but we won't talk about that today. We gotta talk about Courtney.
Yeah,
Um
book club. We did it. We read a book.
I know we read a book and maybe we'll read another one. We did read a couple already, just for the record. So we
Yeah.
are literate. We did meet in grad school,
Yeah.
believe it or
So
not.
and I did the reading, most of it. So there you go.
This was a good book. I mean, honestly, I've been dying to read it. I don't know, the first time I read it, it took me a while to kind of get going, but
Mhm.
she really kind of goes off to the races pretty fast, which means I did not get very far in the book initially.
Mhm.
But I will say, okay, before we get into kind of the nitty-gritty and we can kind of go through the way she breaks down the book. And I think
Yeah.
in between I'll interject with some of my impressions of the season after watching it, rewatching it last week. What did you think of the book overall? what are some of your major takeaways overall?
Mhm.
Any I don't know, like general reflection, I guess, of the book?
Yeah, it was fun, it was breezy, it was a good read, and the thing that I really liked about her is she really digs into some people, like, she's willing to sling
Yes.
some shit, which I appreciate because we don't get a lot of that in The Bachelor, and she seems very honest about things, but that same energy, she projects it at herself too. Like,
Yes.
there's an entire chapter dedicated to how she used to have a giant bush. Like, good for her. If you're willing to go bush mode in your book, like
Yeah.
clearly you're being an honest person, which I think is good because she's critical of herself so that I know when she's being critical of other people or, sharing her perspective on different things, it makes me believe her more. Like, she seems
Yes.
like she's a straight shooter, which I appreciate. Um,
Yeah.
that being said, there are 2 things that I didn't enjoy.
Okay.
One was I split my time, so I read half the book and then I finished the other half, or I listened to the other half on Spotify because they have the book on tape, which she actually reads,
The
which
book
is
on
int
tape.
that book on you know what I mean. The audio book. Sorry, I'm 3,000 years old. What do you want from
Yeah,
me?
the book on tape.
The book, yeah, I put my cassettes in. No, so she reads it. So here are my 2 takeaways that I did not enjoy. One, this book was written like over a decade ago, right?
Mhm.
So there's a lot of similes, a lot of references, blah 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 was like blah blah blah. But all of her pop culture references have aged like just milk,
Milk.
man.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
the milkiest milk. Not good. Uh, and so that's, not great. But also it's like with this kind of book, whatever, I can forgive that. The only thing that I cannot forgive is at one point she's talking about, and I forget who it was someone that she was dating, and they drove a Prius, but she called it a Prius in the
Oh,
audiobook.
she did?
Yeah. And I was like, "What?" Yeah, she's like, "And he rolled up in his Prius." I'm like, "What the hell's a Prius?" I'm like, "Oh god, she means Prius?"
It's Prius.
Prius, man.
That's, like, the
So,
one thing that pulls me out of audiobooks when someone pronounces something wrong, like,
yeah.
I think that just happened today, but I need to, like, look it up to make sure because it was, like, a proper noun, but
Yeah.
it happened in another book I listened to, but it was supposed to happen, and then the character just corrected him, like, a second later, and I was like, "Okay, I was about to have an aneurysm, so now everything is fine."
Yeah, it was just weird because I don't know, it happens, and I'm sure there's
Mhm.
things that I have pronounced wrong and will continue to pronounce wrong. I
Oh,
mean,
same.
yeah, scrub through our TikTok channel. There's probably
I'm sure
there's
we've
endless
said lots
clips.
of wrong things, yeah.
Yeah,
We're not perfect. Nobody's
no,
perfect. Yeah.
I'm exceptionally good at being wrong. So,
Mhm.
but that being said, I'm like, that's a weird one to get wrong.
A
Like,
Prius, yeah. Maybe she's
Prius?
thinking of prions and, she knew someone who had mad cow disease and
I
she's just, like, very, traumatized by it. Who
Who
knows?
knows? Who knows?
Um, yeah, I think yeah, those are good takeaways. My biggest takeaway was Courtney Robertson has gotta be the most honest person on the planet because if she wasn't, everyone would be trying to sue her.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like, this has gotta be true because some of the things she says are so damning that if they weren't true, someone would try to sue her. Like, and they're high profile enough that it could be a fairly good case with some of these folks. So I was like, I think she is honest about all of this stuff. And I know
Mhm,
she's like pretty chummy with Reality Steve. Like she comes on his podcast pretty frequently.
mhm.
Um and I do my biggest takeaway, having read the book and watched the season again, is I think Courtney Robertson is Michelle Money without a redemption arc.
Yep. There you go.
They're the same, or
Mhm.
Demi even. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I don't think she said anything she said things that weren't nice, and she admits that in the book, and we can get to that later. She's like, "That wasn't my finest moment. Like, that wasn't great." But
Yeah.
what I do believe is that all of the women were being equally toxic, and
Mhm.
they didn't show that on camera. And, she probably thought the delivery was gonna be funny and not
Yep.
mean.
Yep. And it was interesting too because I'm glad that, like, in Bachelor world, all you have is a notebook because 'cause I'm sure she was writing a lot of this down.
Yeah.
But, like, some of her observations about, the way that she would say things And she's like, yeah. And then people laugh, but then they cut it and it's just like,
Yeah.
oh. And then she says something and they don't show people laughing. And then it makes like the noise.
Yeah,
Like
it's like,
she
"Oh,
said,
she's such a bitch." Like,
yeah,
like, there was that when they went to Puerto Rico and Ben had asked a question like, "Has anyone ever been there?" And she goes, "I was just there 2 months ago." Like, just
yeah.
like I'm answering your question, but
Hmm.
when you watch it, it's like, "We're going to Puerto Rico." "Oh, I was just there 2 months ago." Like, made it sound like she was being,
Yeah.
like,
Like being
such
the
a
worst
bitch.
person alive. I know. It's crazy.
But that makes sense, like and that's the thing, the way that she describes how she interpreted the editing process
Hmm.
totally tracks with what we know happens.
Yeah.
So I also believe everything she said. She also doesn't deny anything she said. And when you read the book and watch the season like together, she practically and sometimes exactly quotes what she said and what other people said.
Yep.
So she's not so and she's taking that and she's adding the context around it, but it doesn't it's like you and I have seen people try to act like, "Oh, it's editing. It's editing." And you're like, "No." And she's like, "Nobody put words in my mouth. I
Hmm.
said all those things that I said, but I want you to understand the state I was in, what I thought was going to happen,
Yeah.
the things I regret, and I had no idea that there was gonna be this kind of backlash afterwards, and I totally believe her that she
Oh,
had
yeah.
and she had a good career. Why would she, threaten her career
Hmm.
and, make people feel like they wouldn't wanna work with her when she had, like, good regular recurring work? Like,
Oh my
there's no
gosh.
way.
Yeah. There's,
Yeah.
there's, there's like no value in her doing The Bachelor to, like, enhance her career. If anything, and she readily admits this, she's like, "Oh, it, like, screwed up my career for several years." And she kind of knew that going into it, and people warned her about that, and there you go, you
And
know?
she was better than the show, I agree with her. I mean, when she says that, it's true,
Yeah.
Like, and I do think she was better than a lot of the women
Well,
there,
especially, like, you when you watch it,
you
you're
know?
like, she is so, like, stunningly beautiful on that
Yeah.
show, and you're just like, "Oh," like, there's that part where, she references it in the book, but basically Ben's like, "Oh, you're a model." Like, he like,
Yeah.
he just kinda, like, lights up with it because it's like, yeah, she is, like, so just far above so many of these girls, like, she's just totally on a different level.
Yeah.
And
And it
she's the kind
takes
of
yeah.
person who, like, commands the screen, commands a room. Um, yeah, she's great.
Yeah, well, and it takes, like, a really secure person to be friends with someone like that, and I think
Mhm.
this was by and she had friends in the house, and a lot of them were the ones who were also targeted for
Yeah.
being like Blakely. Blakely is also gorgeous.
Mhm.
And
Totally.
confident, and I think they were and it's weird, like, that's one of the things that when you're like, "Oh, yeah, this was only about 10 years ago, a little longer than 10 years ago," but you're
Yeah.
like, the amount of slut shaming they did and,
It's
like
wild,
yeah,
right?
and they're like, "She's a stripper," and I'm like, "Even if she was,
Who
what the hell
cares?
is wrong with you?" Like,
Yeah.
she's like yeah, she was, like, total and she even did people's hair in the house. I'm
Mhm.
like, she's, like, foiling people's hair.
Yeah.
Okay? Blakely is putting in the work, and you're being so mean to her, like, that's not appropriate, and even Courtney is like, "I shouldn't have done that. That was a low blow. Everyone was
Yeah.
coming for her." Literally, the
Mhm.
only person who stayed out of the fray was Lindsay. She
Yep.
was the only one, and Courtney admits it too. I mean, she kind of throws she calls Lindsay a horse girl, which, like, she is a horse girl.
Yeah, you know,
It's
that's
true, she is a horse girl, but, like, literally, I think everyone like, it was a toxic house. Some of the houses are great, and everybody's awesome, and they get
Mhm.
along, and it's really friendly. This was she said, and I'm sure it seems like one of the drunkest houses and one of the
Yeah.
most toxic, nasty houses.
Yeah, that's what
So
it sounds like.
she got thrown into that, and they're like, "We're gonna make an example of you and make you the most toxic one."
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
geez, like that's yeah. So she was set up for failure. Um, but amazing. I was so happy. Like, okay, I just want to read this. part of the opening in the prologue when she said,
Yeah.
on his proposal day, former bachelor Jason Mesnick felt an irresistible urge to run to his balcony and wail like an old Italian woman at a funeral. When I, her, like, I mean, I know she co wrote it, but like, it was good.
Yeah,
Whatever,
yeah.
who cares? When I watched it on TV, I thought he looked ridiculous. But now, as I sat in his place, I understood why he was moved to man tears. And, like this whole beginning was great. And also I love that she explained her outfit.
Oh,
She was
yeah.
like, I was wearing a ridiculous cape. And thank God Chris Harrison was like, let me take that cape for you. Cause it was so bad.
Oh, the fashion stuff is so interesting, especially
Yeah.
when she was just like, "Yeah," so they were like, "You can have 2 suitcases," and then some girls brought 4 anyways,
Yeah.
and then just like, I love her strategy behind it. She's like, "I'm not buying anything new. I'm just gonna borrow stuff because that's silly."
Hmm.
And then she was talking about how, uh, it was so important to have different accessories
Yeah.
because, throughout the course of the show, you would get, like, swag bags and people would get stuff, plus you would fashion is people are gonna bring the same things
Yeah.
basically. So she's like, "Yeah, it's all about the accessories and then, like, how you kind of add your own little flair to it." It's like, "That's really interesting." And also
Well,
some
yeah.
advice that more people should probably take.
I mean, it's not a surprise. She packs like a model because, like, she's
Mhm.
thinking about the like modular nature of her clothes instead
Yeah.
of like entire outfits. And this was like before, I mean, this was kind of as they were getting into that, like, I don't know, like, you have an outfit and then you go turn around and like sell the look on Instagram and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So you got to have a unique everything. This was like beginning age of Instagram. And that was the other thing. This was like the beginning age of social media kind of taking over, cuz this was like 2012, 2013.
Mhm.
Um the show. It was kind of like on its way up, but it was really Ben's season where it's like became much larger and a bigger
Yep,
deal.
yep.
So she just kinda had, like, the worst timing
Oh, it was
ever.
awful. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because I think other seasons, she would have been like, yeah, like, she would have been like a Demi or
Mhm.
a Corinne, or you know what I mean? Where it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, yeah, she's a funny, likable villain," like,
Totally, totally. Yeah, I
totally
could see
nice
her
and
being a
normal.
demi-star person. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like,
And
they're
it
really not that different.
no, if things were totally different, if, like, the current way that Bachelor Nation accepts and rejects different people, I think she'd be a star right
Yeah.
now. Like, there's no way, like, everybody would love her. So
Yeah,
it's
it's too bad, like, justice for Courtney, but at least she wrote this great book,
Mhm.
co-wrote this great book. Yeah, and it was interesting too, so we find out, on the proposal that she and Lindsay had 8 dresses to choose from to get, like,
Mhm.
the same dresses. So, like, that is really surprising to me too. You get to the very end and you only have 8 dresses to choose from,
Yeah, yeah.
and, she talks about how, like, she had to do her own makeup most of the time, and we do know that, so it was like that then, it's like that now. Um, and yeah, it's interesting, like, she says, in at this point during filming, and this was, like, at the proposal, "I honestly did not know I was going to be portrayed as the worst villain in Bachelor history, AKA America's Most Hated. I
Huh.
genuinely thought I was being funny.
Yeah.
I guess I found out the hard way that stand-up comedy is not my forte." Which, like, I do think she's funny.
Yeah,
yeah,
she
it's
is.
but it's like, it's like you put the yeah, you cut it the right way, you put the right music cue, and you can turn, like, I just I just saw, like, a clip, I think it was Hugh Grant on Jimmy Kimmel, like, for,
Mhm.
like, Heretic, he was on, and
Yeah.
so they were like, "Okay, we want you to say these famous rom-com lines, or no, famous horror movie lines. First, like a horror movie, and then like a
Mhm.
rom-com." And of course, he did it like the Hugh Granty way. He's like, just what, like all the twitchy, whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and it was great. Like he was like, "Hello, Clarice," like it was
yeah.
it was awesome. But it's like it's so true. It's like the way
Yeah.
you deliver it and the way the music is and the way the lighting is and all of that, is gonna dictate the way I know. I feel like
Oh,
I'm
totally. That's like
yeah.
there's this trend, this was like 10 years ago or something, but people would take movie trailers for serious dramas or horror films, and they would add "Walking on Sunshine," the
Yeah.
song, to it,
Yeah.
and it would just completely change
Yeah,
everything. It's just like,
exactly.
"Oh, it's a rom-com now? I sure."
So yeah, that's I mean, that's like Courtney got that treatment.
Totally.
She got
Eh
the walking on sunshine in a minor key treatment.
Yeah, and honestly, if we could take that Courtney and just drop her into modern day, I feel like she would be like a Maria style
Yes, yes.
person
She's
from
I don't
Joey's
think
season.
she's different from Maria either. And
Mhm.
that's the other thing. And even like, like Tasha was more strategic, right? And she did a lot of the same
Yeah.
things that she didn't like cut people down as far as I mean, she had, like, little jokes and, like, barbs here and there because she's, like, very
Mhm.
clever, but again, it could just be the way that they cut it and delivered it. She could have been, saying this, whatever, but she was one of the people that I noticed from early on was like, "Yeah, it's like these women don't even wanna be here. They're not, like, being strategic, like, I'm getting
Mhm.
time," and, like, Maria, same thing, Corinne, same thing. It's like and Demi too. It's like, that was it's like you're surrounded by women who aren't taking time to, like, go approach The
Yeah.
Bachelor and
Yeah.
spend time with him one-on-one.
It's
Like, why
ridiculous.
wouldn't you do that? That's good, strategy, and
Mhm.
she was being honest about it. But, yeah, so, like, right away, right in the prologue, we first of all, she establishes that, like, is and was hot shit, It's like, "Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Jesse Metcalf and Adrian Grenier." Oh, also, by the way, I did not know that Ben's last name was pronounced Flajnik until I rewatched
Neither
the
did I.
season. I was always saying, like, Flajnik.
That's what I would say too. Yeah. I was like,
Yeah, it's
"Oh, Flanick."
Flajnik, Ben
Yeah.
Flajnik. I was like, "Oh." As soon as I heard Chris Harrison say it within, like, the first minute of rewatching the season, I went, "Wow."
Yeah.
And I watched this entire season when it
Oh,
happened, and I 100%
Sammy,
forgot.
you know how I pronounce Ben's last name?
How?
Douchebag.
Yeah. Finding Nemo nerd,
I like, everything I heard about Ben, like, I was either getting, like, secondhand embarrassment or I would get, like,
Yeah.
heart palpitations because it upset me so much, like and she's so generous and kind to him.
She's way too nice to
Oh
about
my
him
gosh,
that I mean, this
especially in
was
the
yeah,
end, in, like, the
yeah.
the epilogue and everything, and, when she's wrapping up that final chapter and she's just like, "I just hope that one day I can find a man that I can love again the way I love Ben." I'm like, "He sucked. He
Yeah,
just
he
sat at
was
his laptop, he cheated on you 19 times, and he knows every word to Finding Nemo? That's so weird."
he sucks, yeah, he sucks. Yeah, so yeah, and so she's kind of, like, reflecting on these past relationships right in the beginning, and also she says nice things about Chris Harrison, which, I mean, I'm sure he was a machine,
Mhm.
but not fine-tuned enough for this day and age. Um, but yeah, so it's like, yeah, they get done, filming, like, they do the proposal, they get
Yeah.
done filming, Ben does the, like, "I love you, but, oh, just kidding, I'm actually gonna propose to you," and she gets, like, the Neil Lane stuff and whatever, and um, yeah, so and then she's, like, immediately like, "I don't know if this is, like" and you can see it, it's not at one point, it's strategy, but you
Yeah.
can tell near the end, and she talks about it in the book, and you can see it in the season, where she's like, "I'm not sure this is real or good or how I feel anymore," and,
Yeah.
like, she was honest on the show, and she talks about it in the book, and they align perfectly, but it's, like, right after, like, yeah, they, like, leave, and he's, like, chummy with this, like, producer person, and then, yeah, they start talking about, like, yeah, Finding Nemo and stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, we just, like, hug out, like, during, filming and whatever," and she got a weird feeling about it, she got a weird
Yeah.
vibe about it, and I understand and identify with that vibe. And yeah, it's like, but she wanted to ignore it because it's like, hello, we just got through this big thing and like now we're engaged and we're at the end of this
Yeah.
whirlwind romance where like nobody pooped and then everybody pooped, and now all of our poop is normal and
Yeah.
which we'll
I
get
mean,
into.
listen, Ben cheating aside and just, all around just being kind of a selfish prick, the whole
Mhm.
Disney adult thing is a non-starter for me. I would have walked out of the honeymoon
Like,
at that point.
listen, yeah, I mean, I don't personally want to be with a Disney adult.
Mhm.
I don't fault anyone for Disney bounding. I get if you worked there and you've got like a, link to the place.
Yeah.
And I have friends who go regularly. It's just not for me. It's
No,
just not for
same,
me.
same.
You
It's a
know,
non-starter for me.
if you went to that one like Nintendo place in Japan all the
Mhm.
time, okay, you went to, like, Legoland a lot? Like, alright.
Yeah.
But, like, Disney, not sure. Not
I
sure.
just I don't like heat, I
Yeah.
don't like crowds, and
Yeah,
I don't
same.
like having my Achilles tendon being smashed into by a stroller repeatedly.
So true, so true. Yeah, like yeah, so not for me,
Not
but,
for me.
it's yeah, and I totally get that, like, that's we didn't have the terminology for it 10 years ago, but, like so she says the second night we all watched or the second night, we all watched Finding Nemo together. This was her and, like, this couple that worked
Mhm.
on the show. I was horrified to learn Ben knew every line, which he recited during the movie. The
Which
boyfr
that is unacceptable. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. You don't get to do that. That doesn't no.
I mean, sometimes if I'm watching Mean Girls, I'll do it, okay, or Clueless, but it's
Mhm.
also with someone who has seen the movie before, and
Yeah.
I'm watching it casually, and a lot of the times I just do it when I'm alone, I'll be honest,
Mhm.
okay? But I'm not gonna do that if it's your first I might get excited, I'll hold back. It's like that guy that was at the Wicked movie, and he filmed himself, and he's like, "I'm gonna be brave enough to sing, here I go." I don't even know if that was rage bait, but it pissed me off so bad. Anyway, it probably was rage bait, but yeah, so she said, "The boyfriend and I kept looking at each other across the room and rolling our eyes, but Ben and the girlfriend seemed to be having a grand old time. Sensitive Ben admitted to crying while watching movies on the road together. That's fine. But she said, I did not like the fact that he was watching movies with her at all. I agree. The crying
Mhm.
is fine. The watching movies, like, yeah, during like yeah, it just feels weird. The whole thing felt weird. That would
Yeah.
make me feel strange. Um, oh yeah, and wait, who did he say had um she had a great body and the best boobs. Yeah, just so strange.
Mhm.
So yeah, let me see. Oh yeah, and also let's see. What was it? Oh, there was like a Kurt Russell mention. I'm trying to find it. Um See, he was quite the ladies' man. Oh, yeah, her dad was roommates with Kurt
Roommates
Russell
with
when
Kurt
he's
Russell. Yeah, I
starring in Disney
partied with him.
movies. Yeah, which is so funny.
That's just wild.
She's got, like, interesting lore, that's the thing. She's, like, an interesting person. She has a loving, interesting family,
Mhm.
and yeah, she's done a lot and experienced a lot. I mean, that was part of the thing where it was just, like, she is so far beyond these other women because she's just got, like, all this life
Oh, yeah.
experience and a lot of them are doing, like, middle school, high school bullshit. Like, I
Yeah.
totally
Meanwhile,
agree with
she,
her.
like, is on again, off again with the pool boy from Desperate Housewives. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
He does sound like a train wreck. Good for you not staying with him.
Yeah, yeah.
And
My
I think
favorite
it's
thing
funny
about him
that
though is like he cheats on her repeatedly, but every single time she's like, "Are you cheating on me?" He's like, "Yes, here's exactly what I did." Like he just like spills it,
Yeah,
which is
that's true.
amazing.
He is honest. Well, and Adrienne Grenier too was kind of
Yeah.
like, it's like, "Listen, I am a very sensitive fuckboy." And she's like, "Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
It's
why
fine.
not?
I'm having a good time." Yeah, but that, like, other guy, like, Chris, was it, who just came in and out also did like, she just, like, did not have any good long-term stable
Mhm.
relationships. So I get that she
Totally.
was, like, so interested in being on this show. She sees, Ben's heart get broken by Ashley and is like, "Yeah, I like that. I like what I saw on the show." And she only did the show because she was interested in him. I mean, there's a conversation, I can't remember what chapter, in the next couple of chapters where she's talking about, like, the application process and, how it's like she, like, finished everything and went through the whole thing and did all the questions and whatever, and then almost backed out at the last moment, and I think it was Chris at the time who, like, was like, "I wanna get back together with you," or whatever.
Mhm.
And so she's like, "Okay." And then she, like, changed her mind again, and she's like, "You know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna do the show."
Yeah, why not?
And then Jesse Metcalf also, like, popped up out of nowhere,
Yeah.
and she's like, "I'm doing the show," and he's like, "Oh, fuck, he's gonna fall in love with you," or something like that, and she's like, "Yeah, bye."
See ya.
Yeah, so
That's
yeah, and
great.
she's got a lot of, like, raunchy stories in here, so if you want, like, all the dirty deets of all I'm not gonna talk about all of it on the pod, but I will tell
Mhm.
you it is in there. It is in there. She also has, like, her mom's advice on men,
Which I
which are
love.
yeah, I mean, they're a little, it's a little antiquated.
Oh, just a bit, but I like
Yeah,
the passion behind it. It's good.
yeah. I do like that nothing good ever happens between the hours of 10 PM and 6 AM.
It's true.
And marry someone who loves you more than you love him. good advice, I
Yeah.
guess. But yeah. Oh, yeah, and then there was, like, that other guy, what was the name? Jono? Is that how it's
Mhm.
pronounced? Oh my gosh, she talks about so many, like, she had a full dance card, and she talks about all of it, which is really interesting. Yeah, here's one of I did highlight one of the dated, references. She
Yeah.
says, "The popular guys at my school avoided me like Paula Deen at a Jay-Z concert."
Yeah. I was like, "Oh."
I was like, "Well, true, okay." Yeah, and then she kinda talks about the start of modeling, like, doing Abercrombie& and Fitch, and,
Mhm.
we know that that was, it's kinda a little shadiness going on at Abercrombie& and Fitch in
Oh,
retrospect.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is great too, because like, this book came out and, like, this feels like the canary in the coal mine for a lot of that stuff,
Yeah, she's
like
like, "Yeah, so I was, like, pretty young, but they were like, 'Do you wanna get naked?' And I was like, 'I guess so.' And then they're like, 'We won't use these.' And then they use
that's
them,
the
and I
only
was like,
ones they used,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, of course,
Right.
that's what I've heard, that's what they say, in modeling, if
Mhm.
they say, 'Oh, we're not actually gonna use these, we're just trying some just artsy.'" Yeah, they're gonna use those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, they're
so
totally gonna
don't
use
do it
them.
unless you are okay with that being everywhere, you know?
Mhm.
I also like that she ended this chapter with, "Then I turned on my Discman and played Vanessa Carlton's 1,000 Miles over and over until I drifted to sleep." The most 2010, 11 thing anyone could ever say.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was really good. Um, let's see. Oh, no, not 2000. Oh, 2006,
Mhm.
2005. Yeah, because this was like, or even before that, wasn't it? What year was it? Now I'm doing a bad job recounting. You need to read the book, everyone. It's a good book. This was like when she started modeling. So I guess it was, yeah, the early 2000s. Hello.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was like, that's too late. And then she talks about the Abercrombie and Fitch shoot. Okay. Oh, yeah. This was interesting though. She said, "I eventually realized that if you say no to nakedness, especially with Bruce Weber, you're pretty much donezo in the modeling business. None of the shots I'd
Mhm.
done the few days before made it into the catalog, like we said." Um, yeah, then Chris comes back and da da da. Da, but let's get into the Bachelor stuff. I'm just trying to see if there's any other good. But she really does talk about, her modeling experience and all this interesting stuff she did before The Bachelor.
Mhm.
So definitely yeah, definitely interest. Oh yeah. One of my new best friends was Matthew, rich kid model whose claim to fame was making out with Britney Spears in her Toxic video and dating C-list actresses like Minnie Driver and Selma Blair.
Also,
C-list.
Selma
Oof.
Blair and Minnie Driver are not C-list, come on.
That's why I highlighted it, because I was like, C-list? Not even 10 years ago were they C-list.
No,
Yeah,
no,
anyway. So
come on.
that was a little Courtney, that was a little mean.
Mhm. Little catty, Courtney. Appreciate your honesty, but come on.
Yeah, she talks about, okay, Adrian, okay, and then yeah. Oh, yeah, this was another one. So this was about, like, Jessie trying to get back into her good graces when she was, like, dating Chris, and she goes,
Mhm.
"His persistence paid off, and by summer, I ditched Chris again, and Jessie and I were as hot and heavy as Elaine Bennis and the saxophone player." That was a dated reference even when she made it.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, yeah. But yeah,
There's
so
so
anyway.
many of them too. It's like every 3 pages, there's just
Yeah,
like,
I
"It
highlighted a
was
few that I
like
really
dated
liked.
reference."
Yeah. Here's her advice though. All right, as we're getting into the application process, I really liked this. She's like, "How to get
Mhm.
noticed in the application. Send in your best photo, cut to the chase and save producers time by wearing a bikini in the photo." Probably true.
Yeah.
Um be heartbroken. A good breakup story in which you've been dumped cruelly and callously helps your chances. Like, I forgot about Lindsay's whole story, the like, welcome to Dumpsville population you. What an asshole. That guy sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but be ready for love. Nobody wants to date a sad sack. Say you've recovered and are looking for the real thing. This is all good advice. Still,
Mhm.
show off your romantic side. Tell stories about the most romantic thing you've ever done, but don't lie. They will eventually figure that out. True.
They know everything.
Toss around some cliches. They really like it when you say you want a good story to tell your grandkids someday, or that life is better spent when shared. Don't beg. That's unattractive.
Also
True.
true.
Yeah, she's so true. But yeah, so basically, yeah, oh yeah. So this was like the whole Jesse. So she saw like Jesse cheating, I think, and
Mhm.
then um or no, Jesse popped back up in her life. Yeah, so she broke up with Chris. Then Jesse came back when she posted single. He was like, "Hello, what's going on?" And then yeah, like he cheated. I Googled image Jesse and pictures instantly popped up on TMZ of him straddling some chick in a park. This is PDL, public display of lust, the caption said. Jesse Metcalf reminded us of his existence by tongue wrestling the skyscraper of a blonde at Venice Beach. The couple had a roll in the green that left Jesse feeling a little too sexy for his shirt, apparently. Yeah, so then she was like, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna go on the show. And she like came back to them and the producer's like, can you come in tomorrow? And she's like, yeah. Let's see. I think it's cute too. The one of the things that's fun about this book is she does intersperse it with little clips from other people who are on The Bachelor, her parents, like her sister. So if you're looking for that kind of stuff, it is fun to kind of get other people's perspectives on the show and
Mhm.
people who are in other seasons and who are painted as villains and things like that. So she got like it's more than just like her, and she does like bring in some little interesting tidbits here and there. Although I think
Yeah.
it could stand on its own without that stuff too, honestly. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so basically she saw what happened to Ben. She like totally fell for him. She's talking about like the whole when we've talked about this in our Bachelor Nation episode as well, like
Oh, yeah.
the whole process of applying, and the way she describes it is the same that everybody else describes it. Um but yeah, she talks about like the hiatus that she had because it's like everybody's got to leave their job for a certain period of time. And her agent wasn't worried. And he said, I don't think it will help your career, but it won't hurt it. And she said, foreshadow alert number 3. Um, and she made a pro and con list based on Ben's Twitter. And the pro was falling in love, making new friends, travel, fairy tale ending. Those are the good things that could happen. Cons, heart smashed into pieces, cat fights, isolation, lack of privacy, and humiliated on national television. And I think she achieved everything from every part of that list. So
Yeah.
eventually. So, well rounded, balanced, I guess, not great. Um, but an experience you will never forget. That's for sure.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, she said yeah, and then she did, like, a one last weekend thing with her ex, Chris, and it was
Oh,
like, "You
the
know
Chris thing,
what?
I need to see a picture of this Chris guy. How does she bounce back to him like 300 times
Let me
throughout
see
the
if we
course of
can
this book?
find it." Yeah. She also, I think, did change some of the names, so I wonder if she changed his
Mm.
name. Because right? Didn't she change some of the names?
Yeah, I think so, but it's
Yeah.
also funny because there's plenty of people too where she's just like, "I shouldn't say this person's name, but their name is this."
Yeah.
Okay.
My gosh, well, Ari got a really good mention later. We'll talk about that later. I was like, "Damn."
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, and this was kind of funny, and they made this like twice. They made it seem like Courtney is so hungry for marriage, okay, and like it's kind of pathetic, or like vindictive or manipulative, or I don't know what they were trying to do with it, but
Yeah,
like
so weird.
right before she like went to the show, she did a shoot for K Jewelers and their Neil Lane engagement ring collection. Like how weird is that, right?
That's bizarre, yeah.
Yeah, and so in her package in the season, you see her in, like, wedding dresses and stuff, and then, of course, on her hometown, which we'll talk about more later, they do this, like, "Oh, don't you wanna get married?" Which, again, like, wasn't her first idea, but they're like, "No, let's do this. It'll look totally great." And then it's like, "Oh, she's just, like, so thirsty," or what such a pick me or
It's
whatever they
just
were
so
trying to do.
weird.
Yeah. Yeah, ridiculous. Um Okay, some of the limo stuff is so funny, and she, like, hated the women that were in her limo with her, and she's like, "Monica, wearing a long purple gown was up first. She was a total dud."
And then when
She
she's
said
talking about those girls that, like, they got knocked off on the first night or something,
yeah,
but, like, they had, like, ridiculous names, like, there was
Anna
Bacon.
Snowball.
Yeah, Anna Snowball and something Bacon or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, she said, okay, yeah. Monica said she missed her dog, and that was the highlight. Anna Snowball, I'm sorry, she has the kind of name where you always have to call her the whole thing, was so smashed, she walked right past Ben trying to be all sexy and mysterious, but she just looked lost. And I remember I watched that in the beginning because she was just like, hi. And then she just like walked in, and I was like, is she going to come back? And Ben's like, and he's like,
What?
bold move, but then never ended up going anywhere.
Mhm.
Of the 3, Amber had the most personality. I didn't say it was a good personality. She told Ben she was the Baconator and asked him if he wanted a taste. He kissed her hand and told her she was delicious. I had a hard time
Ugh.
watching this go down because I was already uncomfortable with the idea of any other women touching or kissing Ben. Yeah. Um yeah, this was also weird too. I didn't realize how much conversation they might have coming out of the limo. Like, I always
Mhm.
kinda thought it was brief, so it was interesting that, like, he asked her what school she went to.
Yeah.
Like, first thing out this was the weird thing. Like, yeah, this was another foreshadowing thing. She said, "Yeah, I'll stop counting now." Um, but, like, he is I mean, the way she paints him, it sounds like he is a real, like, elitist and a snob, and, like, a
Mhm.
Disney adult should, in my opinion, not be acting like that.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
saying.
exactly. It's like,
Just
you
saying.
didn't earn this snobbery, sir. And
Yeah.
it's just weird because it's like, I don't know, he sucks, but he doesn't suck in the way I think he should suck. Like, oh, he's a guy
Mm.
who owns a winery. It's like, oh, you should be like really smart and pretentious in this way. But it's like, no, no, no. You've channeled all that into quoting Finding Nemo, you little
But he
weirdo.
also, like, doesn't own a winery. He, like, rents space and cultivates grapes. Like, I
That's
don't know if
true.
he does now, but
Mhm.
he didn't then. I don't really think he has much of a
Whatever happened to young Sonoma? We never got young Sonoma, his
I know,
show.
young Sonoma. That's
Mm.
also, like, quite cringe. He did get married, like, a year ago. I think that's,
Yeah.
like, the newest thing that I heard about from him. Wait, hold on one second. Okay, wait, hold on. He's the director of business development at Force Brands. Uh, their LinkedIns are always the place you can find all this stuff.
Mhm.
LinkedIn is the best. Okay. So Force Brands is the preferred strategic talent partner and recognized thought leader for the consumer economy. Okay.
Sure.
So he works for like an HR company, I
I
guess,
guess so,
doing
yeah.
BD. And before that, he worked for an SEO company.
Hmm.
Ben, why are you trying to take our jobs?
Yeah,
Ben,
stop it,
stay in
Ben.
your lane.
You little
Okay.
weenie.
Stick to wine, jerk.
Stick to mine.
So okay, this is like really interesting. Okay, hold on. His LinkedIn is actually very interesting.
Do
I
tell.
didn't realize he worked for Fernet.
He does?
He
Well,
did.
he did well, because I thought he was just banging the sales rep.
Was that Fernet or was it Malort? It was
Oh,
Fernet?
no, no, it was for net,
Okay,
yeah.
well, that's weird. Okay, because get this. Okay, okay. Oh my gosh. Wait, I'm gonna send you this link. Okay, you should all
Okay.
everybody just look for Ben Flajnik. I mean, I literally just Googled him and this was like one of the things that showed up. His holy crap. Okay, hold on. So he worked at Involve Winery. He was the co-founder, board of director, investor for Involve Winery, and
Okay.
that was just for like from 2008 to 2015.
Mhm.
But what it sounded like, yeah, so it's he like he did sales and stuff. But he didn't own it. But it says he's a co-founder. But Courtney said in the book that he, like, basically cultivated grapes, and he
Okay.
was, like, renting space. So I don't know, maybe that's a little, um, bit of puffery, who knows? But then he started going into this thing called Choose Your College, and he was a co-founder and salesperson for 12 years for a company called Choose Your College, which I don't know what that's about. I mean, I could guess. And then he was a sales executive for 7 years for Native Spirits Limited, and
Mhm.
then was an advisor for 21 Seeds Inc., and that's a tequila. And then
Mhm.
he was full-time senior community manager for Yelp, but he's got a lot of overlap. Have you noticed?
Yeah, yeah.
Head of marketing and business development for Voyage Foods, and then founder and winemaker for Return of the Rosé LLC, from 2016 to 2023. Then he's also an author for Frequent Flyers LLC, published children's books that introduced children to globetrotting at a young age. That's still happening. He's still apparently a co-founder and investor at Fernet. And then he's also the founder of Flajnik and Co. LLC. That's still apparently running.
Oh, this
Uh,
is interesting because it's not just Fernet, because Fernet, this is the weird thing, is like most people
Fernet
think of Fernet.
Francisco.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they think of like Fernet Branca because that's just like
Uh huh.
a brand, but this is just like This was small batch Fernet that they made in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
So
That makes sense.
he like hopped from wine to uh Fernet basically.
Fernet, yeah. So, yeah, Fernet Francisco for 11 years, and then, like, he's doing all this stuff, and he's a co-founder of all these things, he's the director of all these things, and there's a billion overlaps. It's like
Mhm.
he was doing 6 jobs at the same time, and, like, I do a lot,
Wild.
okay?
Yeah.
I
Me
do a
too.
lot, but
You do more than anyone actually.
I'm like, "How can you do this much?"
Mhm.
What are you talking about? I'm gonna look into every single one of these companies. You bet your ass I will. But, like, yeah, that's the th this is what I this is my impression based on the conversations that Courtney put in the book and, like, her interactions with him and stuff. I feel
Mhm.
like Ben is trying to be interesting
Yeah.
and busy and important, and I think Courtney is just kind of, like, naturally interesting and important.
Yep.
And that's the difference between the 2 of them. That's my opinion.
Mhm.
Maybe he is all that in a bag of chips. I don't know. But
Who knows?
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It's interesting. It's interesting, and I have questions. And also, why does their logo look like it says farce? I would fix it a little bit. Anyway, not a good mistake you wanna make. Okay, so
Yeah, not loving that.
no. But that's interesting. Oh, and then I also think it's cute, like, Courtney put, like, the greetings that she was gonna say to Ben in her journal, and, like, there
Mhm.
were a bunch that were rejected. Um,
Which is great
yeah.
too, because some of them are so bad, and you gotta wonder,
Yeah.
like, the producer's like, "Ah, I guess that's your best one you've got, so go for
Why
it."
did you
Like,
do that? Yeah. Yeah. The search is over. If you need saving in there, I'm your girl. Just give me a look and I'll scoop you up and swoop in. Yeah, I think she did a good job. She was just like, "I have a crush on you." And that was true. So it was like wasn't
yeah.
bad. Um, oh, and then yeah, this was interesting too. It's like, oh yeah, Samantha, you give Samantha's a bad name, okay? She was nasty. She was mean like the whole
Not
time. She
yeah.
was a chihuahua, that is true. A tiny little pageant queen from Pittsburgh asked me about my dress. I made the mistake of being honest. I told her it was Dolce and Gabbana, but didn't have time to clarify that it was busted and marked down before she cut me off and sneered, "Ooh, Dolce& and Gabbana," like I was some sort of big shot. Like, that's the problem. Like, and I get this because, like, someone said this to me, like, the other day, like, you you were just talking about, like, a lot of the things you're kind of, like, seem like you were, like, really talking about, like, talking yourself up, you know, and I said,
Yeah, yeah.
I shared 10 to 20% of what I do." Okay, and if that's talking it up, I don't know. I'm just being honest. I literally
Mhm.
was just fitting things in naturally in conversation, and sorry if that sounds like I'm bragging, okay? I just do interesting shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
"Sorry, I'm interesting."
So, I feel like I understand Courtney in that regard, where it's
Mhm.
like, if she's just sharing real shit about
Also,
her
she
life,
asked, what is she
it
supposed to
sounds
say?
like
"Oh,
she's
it's from Forever 21." Like, you're supposed
right.
to lie?
It's like she's just you asked a question, she answered it. Just because
Mhm.
she's good she's, like, resourceful, doesn't mean you have to, like, come for her about it. It's so weird. Like, it's like sometimes, like, I've said to people who I've just met, I'm like, "I'm not gonna tell you most of what I do because it's gonna sound like I'm making it up, so I'm just not gonna tell you."
Mhm.
I love how hard Courtney came for Emily in this because it's funny, the first time I watched this season, I liked Emily, and now I hate her. I hate her with a passion of a million burning suns. I think she's absolutely one of the worst people to have ever been on The Bachelor. I think
I
she's
love that.
nasty and mean and rude and a bad person.
Yeah.
So I love that she was like Emily O'Brien, a stringy-haired PhD candidate studying epidemiology, kept giving out hand sanitizer and talking about sexually transmitted diseases. Yeah, and that she was like she and KCB were talking major shit about Brittany Schreiner, a woman who brought her grandma to meet Ben, making her an early target and an outcast. I was like, "Good for you for telling that happened."
Yeah.
Jenna Burke also, I think the overanalyst, the blogger, got a lot of shit for being on the show in
Mhm.
the time that it happened, and I didn't remember that, but, like, so bad that I think she shut down her website.
Jeez.
Yeah,
That's
which is
wild.
wild. But she had some interesting, rendezvouses.
Rendezvouses?
Yeah, that's how you say it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. That's how you
yeah,
do it.
exactly. Technically, that's how you say that, rendezvouses. Um, she rendezvoused with, some interesting people after the show, so I think she had a good time, but it's
Mhm.
interesting. I think people really it's funny because I thought she, like, made a bigger impression than she did,
Mhm.
um, but she really wasn't on the show that much, but for some reason, like, I remembered her too, like, when I saw her, like, she left an impression in my brain, so I was like, "Wow, I thought she was on the show for longer." But she really wasn't. She kinda, like, sabotaged every chance she had at, like, getting any kinda time on the show. It was bad.
Yeah.
What do you think about some of the other women that kinda, like, started at the beginning? Like, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that she mentioned. I'm, like, looking through the pages. I remembered Jacqueline even though she wasn't, like, she didn't get anywhere really, but I do
Yeah.
remember her. Was she on, like, Bachelor Pad or
I
something?
think she was on Bachelor Pad,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I feel like I remember her. Like,
Mhm.
was Jenna on Bachelor Pad or was she just, like, that memorable? I
I
didn't think
don't
she
know. I don't
was.
think she was either. No.
Okay.
No.
I'm gonna look her up while you share your
Yeah,
thoughts.
I it's funny because my biggest takeaway from this whole thing is, like, there's so many people that I didn't remember, except I was like, "Oh, yeah, you're the one with the thing," and, like, she
Mhm.
she kept referring to someone as, like there's, like, a girl from Texas, and she's like, "Alright, Texas," and then she
Yeah.
was talking about, like, how to host your bachelor watch party, and one of her things was, "You're not gonna remember anyone's name, so
Yeah,
your
that was
best bet."
Rachel's advice, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Courtney's
it's like
sister, yeah.
yeah, she's like, you need to just make up nicknames for everybody," which is
Yeah.
funny too, because when she's going through, she's like, "And this girl I just called Texas, and this girl I called this." It's like,
Yeah,
yeah.
because that's what I would do too.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it's
gosh,
like,
same
how
thing,
are you
yeah.
gonna remember everybody? Okay, yeah, so Jenna was literally eliminated week 2. This is her wiki. This is her fandom wiki, okay?
Okay.
Jenna Danielle Burke was a contestant on the 16th season of The Bachelor. She was eliminated in week 2.
Jeez, that's it?
That's the end.
That's wow.
But for some reason, I do remember her, which is just so wild because she was not even on the show for, like, 5 seconds. It's just so
That's
strange.
crazy. Oh my
But the
gosh.
first night was wild, like, everybody got super drunk. Um, I also like that she shared that Lindsay had permanent eyeliner tattoos. Oh, I also found Lindsay's, did I tell you that? I found Lindsay's, LinkedIn.
Did you really? Send that to me right now.
Yeah, hold on, let me see. Wait, let me find it again.
I love that
Um,
we're just creeping on everyone. What are your latest career moves, Lindsay from
listen
The Bachelor?
listen, I'm just saying. Well, I mean, if you don't want people to know, don't have a publicly available LinkedIn. I don't
This
know,
is
it's
true.
not like I connected with her or I'm doing anything with it. But she works for, like, some AI company,
Ugh, don't
um,
they all?
bridging the gap between human potential and AI in recruitment. Ask me how
Uh,
Humanly is revolutionizing hiring.
I won't.
She also looks, like, totally different. She kinda got Instagram face.
Uh-oh.
But which is weird because, like, a year ago, she did an interview, and I mean, maybe this is just, like, an overly Facetuned picture. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just looks like I mean, listen, she's in the right place because it's giving uncanny valley to me. But she worked in the
Yeah.
same place for 15 years, and she just switched jobs.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I
She
love
was the
creeping
director
on
of business
people.
development for Harvey Nash. This is all publicly available information. It's not like I'm doxing anybody. This is on
No.
LinkedIn.
No,
But
she wants us to ask her how Humanly is revolutionizing hiring. That's what
maybe
it
I
says.
will.
Maybe I will
Perhaps
too,
I
yeah.
will. But I'm maybe she was like maybe there was like a layoff. I don't know. Because she was like in the same place for a long time.
Yeah, 14 years and 6 months is a very long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that especially in this days and ages.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so interesting. Anyway, yeah, because she was posting about Harvey Nash as much as like, yeah, 9 months ago, and then it was just like, let's see, when did she? The end of an era after an incredible almost 15-year journey. What a ride it's been. Well, no, it looks like she left on her own terms. So yeah, she plays 660 people in new roles. So, good for
Huh.
her.
There you
Yeah,
go.
she had a good stable job. Lindsay was like the most normal person on the show for
Yeah.
sure. Watching it back too, I'm like, Lindsay is she's like too normal for the show. Her family's too normal. Like
Oh, I
She's
love that
yeah,
stuff too. It's so
yeah.
funny to me when you see someone on the show, it's like, "You're never gonna make it, you're a normal human."
Yeah, I mean, but she did I mean, she made it really far. She made it to the
Mhm.
final 2, but, like, she was, like, the most normal, like, even-keeled, level-headed, like,
Yeah.
seemed like I mean, like, I'm dogging on her right now, but I'm joking. Like, she's, like, a totally normal seems like a lovely person.
Mhm.
I know she did end up saying some things about, like the like manipulation and things like that that happened in filming and editing. I
Mhm.
haven't gotten a chance to watch any of her interviews, but if I do have a chance before our next episode, I'll definitely share more updates.
Yeah.
Um but anyway, I just wanted to I wanted to share some of that stuff. But I thought it was funny that Courtney's like, yeah, she's got permanent eyeliner tattoo. Like she gave us like these little tidbits that are
Just like
like
I
so
love it. They're just
interesting.
like it's not even like, it's not super it's just like a little jab, but also it's, like, informative at the same time,
Yeah, it's
so
just
it
a
feels
well, and
better. I
it's
love it.
like it was really in vogue in, like, the early 2000s, and it did come back. Some people are doing it again, which is
Mhm.
surprising to me.
Yeah.
Someone just I watched some TikTok where someone's like, "I'm so glad I did not do microblading because, that was only popular for a couple years, and can you imagine having tattooed eyebrows on your face?" Like,
Mhm.
sorry, no offense.
I'm just like I
No,
mean, it's a
yours fit
huge
your
commitment.
face. Yours
Yeah.
fit your face. If you had, like, little eyebrows,
Could you
that would look
imagine
so
me with
scary.
little baby
Oh my god,
no.
no,
I gotta have
no,
these
I would
big old,
cry.
like 2 dead caterpillars. That's if I had anything smaller than these, I'd look
One of
ridiculous.
these days, you should, like, put foundation on them, or, like, cover them up and, like,
Oh,
pencil
like I'm a
them
drag
in.
queen?
I yeah,
Yes. This is we're
and
gonna do this.
do, like, the '90s Pam Anderson, Yes.
Oh, I love that.
I would love to
There
see
are
it.
still women that are, like, between your age and my age that are suffering to this day from overplucking in, like, the
Yeah.
early to mid
I
2000s.
was always petrified of that because, I mean, I've got a natural unibrow, so, like, I need to, like, keep it in check, but
Mhm.
there was a time that I started getting over waxed and over tweezed, and I had to just break up with the person who was doing my eyebrows. And then I,
Mhm.
like, kinda went too far in the other direction for a minute, and then I went, "You know what? I have eyebrow blindness." I am not afraid to admit that I have eyebrow blindness,
It's good.
but the good thing is they just look good and I don't need to do anything to them except for keep the unibrow at bay. That's all I need to do.
That's all you gotta
That's
do.
literally it. So
Yeah.
so now I've stopped fucking with them. Anyway, so now you
No.
know my eyebrow
I
journey.
do in case any of our listeners are wondering listeners, I should say viewers, because if you're listening, you can't even see my
If
dumb
you're listening, I'm
yeah.
sorry. You gotta
Uh,
come watch us on YouTube and check out
I
our eyebrows because we
I
both
do
have, I
nothing
think,
with
good
these.
eyebrows.
Yeah, I do nothing with these all
Yeah.
natural. There's no plucking, there's no manicuring,
So
it's
you
just
never have to deal with the in between space.
no,
Not enough
no,
Eastern European going on.
no,
Okay, got it.
no, just it's just God has blessed me.
Lucky,
I know.
lucky. Okay. Anyway, so what an interesting episode. Okay, this is good too. How to get noticed by the tabloids. This was another
That's a
like
fun one.
little tidbit. Oh, also, I want to talk right before that. She talked about the people that she kind of was like drawn to at the beginning.
Mhm.
She gravitated toward raspy voiced partier Jacqueline Schwartz, my hair curling buddy Casey Steamer. I mean, she loves Casey.
Yeah.
Casey's her BFF. She says only nice things about Casey
Mhm.
the entire time in the house and out. And beautiful blonde Rachel Trueheart. And I like as soon as I saw Rachel, I was like, oh yeah, I remember Rachel because she had
Yeah.
the bangs. I'm like fashion bangs.
Oh.
That's Rachel. Uh, KCB, Nikki, Monica, pageant queen Samantha, and Emily were forming their own Pink Ladies gang. Blakely, who at 34 was a senior citizen in bachelor years, and Lindsay, who rarely spoke to anyone, were lone wolves. The rest, frankly, were floaters, not really a blip on the radar. I kind of missed Anna Snowball. At least I remembered her name. It was such a good ending. But yeah, so she's like, how to get noticed by the tabloids. Release a mugshot, but only if your hair looks good in it. Overcome adversity or tragedy. Ashley Fraser was an orphan. Sarah Heron only had one arm. Car accidents, diabetes, and dumped at the altar all work too. Have a weird job. Chantel Newton didn't even come close to getting the guy after 2 tries, but because she ran a funeral home, she nabbed magazine spreads and even got a book deal. Be sexually ambiguous. Many former contestants have been dogged by gay rumors. keep everyone guessing. It adds to the fun. Well, sometimes, you know, it doesn't help your case because you're a stalker and you're weird.
It's true.
I'm
This is
talking to
true.
one person in
One
particular.
person, one
Only one.
particular bachelor man.
Colton. Anyway, flaunt your virginity. Sluts are a dime a
Oh,
dozen. This is
we
such
love the
antiquated stuff,
virgin.
but it is true still
It's well,
on
the thing
this
is like, I The
puritanical
Bachelor is
show.
so puritanical and moralizing that, like, it's still true on the show. Like,
Yeah.
they love a virgin. They love a virgin. Or if you're
I mean,
Ari, you
Sean,
love
yeah.
dating a born again virgin.
Sean, yeah, Sean.
Yeah.
I forgot he was a born again virgin.
That's like
I
the
was like,
lamest
"Oh."
thing ever. What is Jesus, like, reconstructing your hymen? Come on.
I like that I just let you say the most heinous things and then I get to just look good in comparison. She's like, "Well, Sammy didn't say that." Um, but
What I'm
yeah,
here for,
so
Sammy, to make you look
yeah,
good.
no problem. Oh, the other thing about, like, Chris being the worst was that he was, like, a raw vegan, and Courtney was like, "I
Yeah.
totally love it." I'm like, "Courtney, what are you doing?
Yeah, so
That's miserable." Yeah.
ugh, I
Um,
could not eat like a bunny rabbit. That wouldn't work for
yeah.
me.
Yeah, that's so bad. Yeah, some women were oh, yeah, Elise is oh, yeah, Elise she really liked too. She was the personal trainer, right?
Mhm.
Bagels with peanut butter and bananas was quite popular. Others were making themselves mimosas. Yeah, she gives us a lot of, like, the minutia, which is really fun and nice. Um, let's see. Oh, yeah, go ahead. You were gonna
Oh,
say
the
something.
only thing the other thing that's just popped in my head, but I love they're just like little production insights, and they're almost like throwaway things, but they're things you would never think about, and you're like, "Oh my god." And the thing that stuck out to me was like, there's in most instances, there's no way for these people to work out. And they're
Mhm.
all like either like super muscular, fit, or whatever. So the way that they would find ways to exercise is
Yeah.
so funny. They're just like, yeah. And then we would just walk down to the end of the driveway and back 100 times because that's all that we could do.
Yeah, I
Oh
like
my
that
gosh.
Courtney equated it to yard time like they were in prison.
Yeah. Like they're in prison, and which it totally makes
Yeah,
sense,
she's
right?
like, "During our yard time, we did this." I was like, "Oh my god." Um, yeah, so okay, this is interesting. So, she talks about how, like, they all came for Blakely really fast, and that was wait, that other girl, what was her name? The one that was, like, all over Blakely night 1, and then they got into it
Oh,
later. I can't remember
yeah.
her
I can't
name,
remember it
but
either.
anyway, she talks but yeah, basically they were like then they became like enemies. But all these women were like Blakely got the first rose really quick,
Mhm.
because she like made out with Ben in the pool or something. And then people were like, she's so blatantly fake and overtly sexual, and I hate her. Like so annoying. And then there was a date with Courtney like early on the one-on-one, and Casey answered the door, and so she read it and she
Mhm.
goes, "Courtney, let's spin the bottle." And Courtney said, "How'd that taste coming out of your mouth?" Which is apparently a quote from The Blind Side, which I've never watched, which I'm proud
No,
of.
which this is the other thing too. You talk about like dated references, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, "What?"
Well,
She's like, "A quote from my favorite movie, The Blind Side. Everybody knows this." I'm like, "I don't think everybody even knew it back
but
then."
that's the thing. That's Courtney. I mean, like, we can get on Ben for quoting Finding Nemo, but obviously Courtney likes references. And I mean, I love a reference, but
Mhm.
I wouldn't put those in a book or say them on a show because as soon like it's gonna be old by the time the show airs. So it's like unless it's like a timeless reference that like a lot of people will know, like
Mhm.
it's gonna like make you look like really creaky, right? But she also wasn't thinking about that. It's like that was
No,
just her default state. So like she's just
totally.
saying the thing that she's thinking of. And apparently after she said that, what Casey said, like vinegar, like that's what it tastes like coming out of her mouth. And she's like, "Oh, okay, so she had a comeback.
Mhm.
So that's good." But then what happened was they cut that part out. And
Mhm.
so it just like made her look meaner,
Yeah, she just looked like an asshole. It's great,
and
yeah.
then she also, like, apologized to Casey, but, like, of course, we don't see that, right?
No, why would
And
we see
then
that?
Casey, like, told everyone, like, "Oh my god, she's such a bitch," you know?
Mhm.
And then, And then, yeah, apparently everyone was calling, Blakely, like, horse face and a slut and, like,
Which is just so mean. It's like, "What are you,
awful.
you little horse face slut?" Who says
Yeah, it's
that?
like, oh,
That's
terrible. And
crazy.
Courtney was even like, "Well, I did call her horsey, but it did not air." I'm like, "Oh god," it's like,
But
but
again,
they were
she's honest,
she's
like, she did
admitting it,
not
yeah.
have to say
But
that,
they were
yeah.
all being, like, so nasty, like, to each
Mhm,
other, like, it's just like, you can tell this was just, like, a toxic house the whole time.
mhm.
Um, Also, I didn't realize there was, like, that one song that kept playing throughout the entire season, and it was, like, Ben's, theme song.
Mhm.
Uh, what was it called? Shit. David Gray, "This Year's Love."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that just, like, kept playing.
Well, listen, I mean, you pay for the rights for something, you might as well use it, right?
That song played like 6 or 7 times during the season. It was, like,
Mhm.
a ridiculous amount of times, and I did not notice it until watching it now and watching it in quick succession, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I get it, the song." But yeah. So, let's see. But yeah, they had a good time. They love power bars and Mariachi El Bronx and the
That's
song
a good thing, it's just
Sleepwalking.
like, well, why do you love him? Well, we have a lot in common, like Power Bar. What?
We like power bar.
I like Power Bar, yeah. What?
She also really liked his hair, and which is funny because a lot of people hated Ben's hair. I have no
Yeah.
opinion of his hair one way or another, but, a lot of people hated his hair, which is also, like, seems very, like, old fashioned. It's
Mhm.
Tuck just told me he was in, like, Quick Trip the other day, like, picking up food and stuff for his job,
Yeah.
and, like, so he's, like, working, and this, like, old guy comes up to him and is like, "About time to cut that hair, right?"
What?
I was like, "What
Who
the fuck?"
says that? That's so weird.
I was like, "You know what I would've said?" And I said a lot of mean things after that. I was like, "Let me at him. Next time, keep one of these in your back
Don't
pocket."
talk to my beautiful boy that way, grandpa.
What I would have said is, "Oh, we gotta call the nurse. He's out again. He's out again. He got loose. The memory care facility is looking for you because you
Yeah.
must not have a functioning brain if you're gonna talk to somebody like that. There
Huh,
must be something wrong with you."
don't be a
Anyway,
dick.
sorry. No offense to people in memory care because you're all probably way nicer than that asshole.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she gives 10 fun facts about Ben's hair, but you'll have to read it to find out. And it has an
Mhm.
answer key as well. It's a true false. But yeah, she had a good first date with him. Everything went well, whatnot. Let's see. I know she doesn't, I mean, she was like kind of like hot and cold about Casey.
Mhm.
I think she just like didn't like that Casey was like too nice. I think she just thought it was like fake, which I get
Yeah.
it. Um, but she goes, "At least Samantha, the little chihuahua always running her mouth, had the cojones to insult me to my face." And apparently she said, like, "There's Courtney the model eating another salad." Like, shut up. Just let her eat a salad.
I don't
She's
know,
not
be a
hurting
dick.
you.
Who
Like,
cares?
no wonder she was mean to you guys. Like, if that's the way you were talking, like, I'm glad she was
Mhm.
mean. No, I'm not glad she was mean to you. She's also not glad she was mean to you. But yeah, she also talks about all the things when she was like mad or mean, and then she said, "I apologize, but this is what happened."
Yeah.
Um, oh, and then yeah, so oh yeah, she interrupted she interrupted Lindsay on a date, and she goes, "Despite trying to respect the girl's wishes that I keep a low profile, I needed to have a one-on-one chat. So I interrupted Lindsay, whose face was now as orange as a construction cone from all of the free bronzer." I apologized to both of them, but Lindsay didn't seem to care. She made stink faces here and there, but for the most part, to her credit, she stayed out of the drama so far. Ben read my note out loud on camera. I was mortified, but should have known better. Nothing was private on the show. On the cover, I'd written, "Roses are red, violets are blue. I like you a lot. I hope you do too." Yeah, and oh, that's so yeah. Dear Ben, thanks for the nice date last night. I woke up feeling happy and wanted to write you a love note. I could see you being my husband. There, I said it. It's out there. But luckily, it never made it on the air. So that was something that we didn't see. Um, let's see. Yeah, everybody was so mean to Blakely. I like literally don't get it.
Yeah.
But she said, "Rumor had it our cast was the drunkest the producers had ever seen." Like the next page. So like if that tells you anything, I think it really was. Um, let's see. Oh, she talks about the cliches we love so much. She does have a good kind of drinking game in here, where it's like anytime someone says journey or process, insert name threw me under the bus. I feel like my wall is up. I'm falling in love with more than one woman. This is the hardest decision I've ever made in my life. I just don't see him with her. You haven't seen the last of me. Take a drink. There's a lot of them. Take a drink. But one of my favorite things that she talks about is like that nobody pooped for like, I don't know, like half
A
the
long
show,
time.
a long time. Like we thought that, Sam's poop baby was bad. This
Mhm.
sounds like it was potentially longer, just as
Oh,
long,
yeah,
if not
this was
longer.
like a massive poop baby among several people too, like, this is
Yeah. It
everybody
was
was poopy pregnant.
yes, it was so bad.
That's the most
Um
disgusting thing I've ever said, by the way, that's
I don't know if it was,
No, you're right.
but
Top 5 maybe.
maybe top 5,
There'll
yeah.
there'll be a TikTok montage of, like, "Here's the worst thing Steve has ever said.
Cancel him, cancel
Cancel
him.
him,
He's
cancel him."
terrible. He's the worst person
All
ever.
the born again virgins are gonna come for me and cancel me.
Hey, as long as it's not, like it I don't know why this made me think of it. I do watch Kyle Prew's videos. Have I sent you any of Kyle Prew's
No,
videos?
I don't know who that is.
Okay, so Kyle Prue does this series, How to Piss Off Men, and it's really great. It's like he's got this list of all these things that you can say to like make a man feel insecure. He's very good
Mhm.
at it. And then sometimes people use them on him, like different ones, and he's like, "Oh, like you did it." But he also had this like weird beef with furries like a couple years ago.
Mhm.
Well, a couple years before that. So it's like every once in a while he'll kind of it'll like reemerge and he'll get voicemails from people
Mhm.
just growling at him and he'll like play all the growls that he gets. And listen, I have nothing against furries, especially all of the good work that they do on our internet. But yeah, what I'm saying is as long as you don't start a battle with furries, you're like good. Cause like you
Yeah.
don't want some people like randomly growling in a
No,
in a
no.
voicemail. Like, it is kind of like some of them are, like, kinda silly or, like, not intimidating, but some of them were actually kinda scary. I'm like, "I don't think I would like it if somebody
No.
left voice messages, growling on my phone. I think that would freak me out." Okay,
Yeah,
anyway.
it would definitely freak me out.
Yeah, so let's see. Oh, yeah, this was a cute part too. So she's talking about, like, what this was when they were at the Fairmont. This was, like, not that far into the journey. This was when they were at, San Francisco, and she was, like, working out in the gym, and she was like, "I checked out this cute guy and then realized it was Ben." That was cute. See, that's the thing. She was really genuinely interested in him. Like nobody can say like when people were like, she's just trying to win, like she's just trying to win the game and she
Mhm.
doesn't actually care about Ben. I'm like, that's not true. Like even watching the show, that didn't feel true. It's like she's literally the
No.
only one that's like making an effort. How can you say she doesn't care about him? Like she
Right.
and the bullshit that she put up with afterwards shows that she, like, cared about him way too much, and he did not deserve it, so I couldn't
No.
believe yeah,
No, she was
um
yeah, all things considered, like, she definitely I mean, she's honest and she's a straight shooter, but she gives him a lot of, like, grace that he probably doesn't deserve.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, and the other thing and I'm I'm looking at that one date that, like, Emily went on where she, like, went up the Bay Bridge, which, like,
Mhm.
that would've been cool, like, I would've done that, but I didn't realize it until Courtney brought it up too, that, like, Ben had all of these, like, risky dates, like,
Mhm.
all of these daredevil dates, and,
Well,
like
and it was totally selfish too, right?
right, yeah, that's what she was saying, like, because there's always, like, a couple of those, but so now I have questions about Jen because, like, Jen had a bunch of those, and it seemed like she didn't want them, but
No.
if Ben had direction and was allowed to say, like, "I want these," that's
Mhm.
kind of interesting. I mean, wouldn't surprise me, like, based on, gender inequity on the show
Oh,
that
sure.
Jen didn't have as much of a say as, like,
No
Ben
say at
did.
all,
That's
yeah.
probably, part of it, but, yeah, she's just like, "You didn't even give us a lot of chances to, like, be cute and relax. You just, like, wanted to do all the Daredevil dates." That was kind of her take on it.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. Um, but yeah, um yeah, there's and then I actually don't remember I don't even remember how his name was pronounced. Was it Callan or Kalen?
Mhm.
Kalon
Yeah, yeah.
on Emily's season, apparently? I don't remember him. I have to watch that season now too. I gotta
No,
pay for
I'd
another
have to look him
season.
up on, like, the Bachelor wiki because I
I
have no
even
idea.
did, and I was like, "I still don't remember him." So it's kind of like I remember Michelle, like, you know what I mean? I remember, like,
Mhm.
the women, the female villains, and I remember some of them, like, I remember Chad, you know, but I don't remember a lot of the men who are villains on the
No.
show, unfortunately. I mean, I remember the women because 'cause they're interesting and funny. So, I like and I would hang out with them. So, I don't know, I just but he was just kind of like, "Listen, you know, if you're a villain, people pay attention to you." So and that's true, but I was
This
just
is
funny. I
true.
was like, this 10 years later, I'm like, "I do not remember you." I also did not remember Chantel at all.
Mm-mm.
You know, funeral home lady, funeral
No,
director
I
lady.
didn't remember her at all, and I was just like, "Wait, who is this person?" And I got her confused with the taxidermy girl from a few years ago, and I was like, "No, that's different, but equally interesting to me." So
Yeah, I like the well, she was cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, this was interesting because it's like she was on Brad's season, which like what a stinker of a season. And then she comes back to Ben's season and it's like she could have come the first week. So I
Mhm.
feel like this was a producer choice to bring her in later. Like that seemed fishy to me. And she
No.
had talked to Ben. But she did not make it beyond this. But like God, the best part was Elise getting so upset and going, "Who is she?" And she even laughed about it at the Women Tell All, like, I was like, "That is a
My
good." They,
god.
like, replayed that moment so much because she had so much and she was, like, a pretty chill person on the show, and she got, like,
Mhm.
so upset about this, "Who is she?" Um, and, like and Courtney freaked out, and to be fair, I do think she had a reason to freak out because I do think Chantel was closer to Courtney's level than the other women on the
Oh,
show.
yeah, for
I
sure.
think they all felt threatened because she is, like, stunning, like,
Mhm.
you know, but yeah, it was just, like, bad timing, didn't work, didn't you know? And then yeah, and then Courtney was upset with Ben, and she said, "We actually have a connection, and you just blew it." And she was
Oh
crying,
my
and
god.
she said she looked like a wet rat afterwards. Yeah, um yeah, and Elise was like, "Why are you here? You don't even know Ben." And Jacqueline's like, "So now you're a part of us?" And Rachel's like, "Why do you think you deserve to be here?" And it was like this unifying moment. It's like everybody was mean to everybody else in the house, and then they were all like, "Actually, fuck this lady." But the problem is she left, you know? So she
Yeah.
said like, yeah, they were Courtney said they were my temporary dysfunctional family. Nobody messes with my temporary dysfunctional family. Okay, we have a common enemy now, and her name's Chantel, and we hate her for no reason. You know, and yeah, and then but this was like some people were so mean. Like Nikki was really mean to her. She's
Mhm.
like, I think she's uglier in person. And was she the same one who said, like, I think she's got like thick thighs? Like there's a lot of like fat shaming.
There's
It's
a
like,
lot of weird like, they were
yeah.
really going in hard on each other, but,
And
like,
it's
in
like,
weird
I mean,
ways.
10 years ago, yeah, that shit happened way more. I'm like, nobody
Mhm.
would say this now. Like, if they did,
No.
everybody would turn on them and be like, you are the nastiest bitch, you know?
Oh,
And so
yeah.
that's the thing. It's like Courtney didn't even say anything that was as mean as what everybody said about Chantel or
Mhm.
Blakely. And I'm like, but you hate her for because she's pretty and confident. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Weird,
I
right?
got it. Like, yeah. Oh, and then this was interesting too. Yeah, um, Jacqueline was like, "I think I'm getting dumped for a girl he's known for 3 minutes," and then Erica fainted twice. That was, like, such a dramatic yeah, and then we get to the chapter 6, and she goes, "KCB was the first one who figured out how to poo." But it wouldn't happen until we got to Utah,
Which
and
is
that
like
was a while to get
isn't
to
that's, like,
Utah.
such a fun way to just frame
It was the
it.
best first sentence, I
Mhm.
had to reread it, like, 3 times because I thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
Um Yeah. So basically, yeah, she's like, "We all have realized that we could, like, order laxatives, so we did." And enemas.
Powerful
And she's
stuff.
like, "And then we pooped, and it was awesome, but then we started pooping too much." So that was really funny. So, and that kind of, like yeah, it's like it kind of paints, like, the frazzled nature of everybody in a different light. You're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I get it. You all had to poop. It makes sense. You're going for
Yeah,
each
can you
other's
imagine,
throats."
like, you all like, you're sharing a boyfriend with 30 different women and everybody has to shit? Like, that would suck.
Yeah, so bad. Um, This is funny too. So they get to Utah, and Ben rode up to them on a horse, and she said, "And expert equestrian Lindsay just about creamed herself."
But then
She's like, "It's
Lindsay
my
got
thing."
stuck behind her, so then
Yeah.
she couldn't, like, show off her skills.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's funny. Yeah, she's like, yeah, she goes, "I picked Romeo, the slowest, oldest horse. Unfortunately for Lindsay, she got stuck right behind me on the trail, so she couldn't show off her snazzy riding skills to Ben up ahead. Sorry." But this was when,
Oops.
like, she really showed off because they are like fly fishing and nobody's talking to Ben. And she's like, and she says in like her confessional, she's like, "It's like these women aren't even trying. So I'm trying and I'm making the effort. So
Yeah.
what's going on with that?" Um, yeah, and then yeah, and then there was, like, this group date, and there was, like, a pool thing, and yeah, and Blakely was, like, trying to kinda, edge in on Ben, and it worked, and then she
Mhm.
was upset about KCB because she disappeared with Ben, and so she just sulked in the hot tub or whatever, or no, she sat by herself and sulked, but the other girl sulked in the hot tub. Um, but yeah, this is interesting because Samantha got sent home, but it was kind of like random. But apparently it was because she was like talking shit. And maybe she had a crush on one of the crew members. Hard to say.
Mm.
Yeah. And Courtney was like, "Another one bites the dust," and like nobody liked that either. So so that's not great. So she just another bad joke didn't work. And then she starts getting into the whole winning thing, which
Oh my god,
talk about dated,
I know,
like,
talk about dated references,
and
like,
so cringe. Yeah. I was like,
and she
"Oh
was just
god."
like, "Right before I went out of the show, Charlie Sheen, blah, blah, blah," and I was like, "Oh god,"
And
like,
she's like, "So I said winning," and I remembered that too before even watching the show. I remembered her
Tiger
going,
blood,
"Winning,
winning."
winning." Yeah. I was like, "Oh god." She might as
No.
well have said, like, Coney 2012 at this point, like, you know what I mean? It's like, "Jeez."
Oh
Like,
my
like,
gosh.
yeah, crusty, dustiest of memes. Um, yeah, so but she's like, but I mean, it was her strategy, I guess, to be winning, but I was just like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's like one of those things where it's like, if you don't say it, like, within a week after it happens, you're gonna sound so old. It's just not gonna work. Um and then yeah, so there's a lot of, like, women who were trying to take Courtney down early on. Emily was the one who stepped in shit the most often.
Mhm.
She, like, just kept trying to get Courtney off the show, and I remember when I watched it because I kinda liked Emily when I first watched it, I was like, "Stop doing that. What are you doing? That's
Yeah.
terrible strategy. Just shut your mouth. He likes her, and you're gonna get X'd off this show." And
Mhm.
I did know that at some point, I knew that Courtney had won before the season ended because I was reading Reality Steve pretty religiously at that point. So I
Yeah.
did know that. Um, Probably about midway through the season, I knew. And I was like, because I don't think I looked at it right away. And then I was like, ugh, I don't like this. Like, this is not great for anyone.
Yeah.
And so it's like I felt that dread, and he was like, "And she's being painted as a villain, so, like, the villain's winning," and I was like, "Oh god, that's not good at all," you know? So,
Yeah.
that was yeah, and I remember as every week went on, I was like, "Oh, no, it's really gonna happen, isn't it? He's not gonna be wrong, he's gonna be right," you know? And I felt, like, devastated, and now I'm just like, "Yeah, none of you tried hard enough. You're
Nope.
all terrible people, and why did you spend a second worrying about Courtney? Like, if you had worried about yourself even a little bit, maybe you would have gotten farther, but you didn't, and that's why she won so clearly."
Pretty much.
Yeah, but Casey really stood up for Courtney the entire time. Like, she was like, "She's not a fake person. She's totally real. Like, she has friends." And, Emily's like, "She just has like a bitchy, callous, rude demeanor, and she's sweet to Ben. She's not sweet. She's actually kind of mean." And Casey's like, "She's sweet to people who are sweet to her. So we're not gonna see eye to eye on this. Okay,
Yeah.
bye." Yeah. Um, and yeah, like, was this around the same time that Emily called her, like, a psychopath or something like that, or a sociopath
I
or
think
something?
so.
Yeah. Like, okay, and, but around the same time, yeah, Courtney was like, "I wanna rip her head off and verbally assault her," which, like, fair enough. Um, yeah, let's see. Um, oh, yeah, this was like oh, this is funny too. Casey would, like, ask questions throughout, like, the entire season. She, like, made herself, like, like, Casey definitely reads, like, as team building exercises, and, like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm a team building exercises person, so no hate to Casey, like, I'm the same. I'll be like, "Okay, everybody, here's a question that we can all think about because I need a direction to this conversation. It can't just sit here and stare at each other. We gotta talk about something." So she asked the question, how many of you have learned more about yourself in the past 2 weeks than in the past 2 years?
I
And
love
she's like,
this.
"Me." And then Courtney's like, "Not me. I don't
Not
know."
me, no.
Like, I'm aware of myself and then, yeah, people were, like, mad, you know?
Yeah, that she
Yeah,
was just honest and not.
Emily was first, which set me off. Should I have raised my hand like a good girl? Probably, but I was so furious about Emily's gossiping, I was itching for a fight. KCB was offended that I thought she asked a stupid question. "I think most people who would have gone through this process would agree with you," Emily said to KCB. I laughed at Emily. "What are you laughing at?" she sneered. "You," I said calmly. "You know why. My guard's up with you. You talked bad about me to Ben tonight." What are you talking about?" she said. "I'm up on it." "Courtney, we're not in 5th grade. Come on, let's be adults." Oh, yeah. After I told her she was the one acting like a child, she again told me I had a personality disorder. Our fight was getting so ugly, several of the other girls got up and walked away. And then, yeah, Ben picked Emily last to teach her a lesson, I guess, and dumped Monica. Um, oh, interesting. Yeah, we didn't really see Monica on the show. I forgot she said she was like a big troublemaker behind the scenes. Interesting.
Yeah, and then she just didn't get a ton of camera time, which is weird,
Yeah.
but sure, sure.
Yeah, and then Courtney this is when they go to Puerto Rico, and Courtney's like, "I was just there 2 months ago," after he asked for that it just looked, like, so bad. And then apparently Emily snuck up right behind her right after this and whispered in her ear, "You're such a fake bitch with your fake hair and fake boobs." And she goes, "Emily had fake boobs too." And, yeah, so, yeah. But she apparently said, "Yeah, you better check yourself, bitch. No wonder your boyfriend dumped you." Which, like, good for her, honestly. She's like, "It's the meanest thing I said in my whole life." It's like, she said you had a personality disorder and you were a fake bitch with fake hair and fake boobs. I would say something like that too. I'm not above that. But she, again, felt bad about it, so she's better than me.
This is
Um,
the fake boob thing too, which she got dinged for like a million times. She's just like, I just, I felt like I was flat chested. I got like a modest C cup, and people then yelled at me and called me a fake titty bitch all the time. It's like, who is doing this to
she
you?
also, like, looks yeah, like, it's not like she looks like, disproportionate or odd or
No,
anything. She looks, like,
no.
totally normal and also gorgeous, like
Yeah.
yeah, that's insecurity. That's called
It
insecurity.
is just it's the wildest thing. Like I was just like, what is going on?
Yeah, so weird. Yeah, more talk about poop. Oh, yeah, when they were in, Puerto Rico, she got her laxatives.
Gotta get those laxatives, baby.
Yeah, and then they did yeah, like, this group date and stuff, and, yeah, oh my gosh, this was wild. They did that, like, baseball thing in San Juan in 100-degree humidity, and so she's like, "Yeah, there's a lot of times where we had to, like, run off and go to the bathroom and then come back out during the game." Which is, like, so fun because it's like you see this, like, produced thing,
Oh yeah.
and, she's like, "Yeah, I ran like a maniac across the hotel suite with my butt cheeks squeezed to find the most private bathroom." And she's like, My butt was making such loud noises that I was dying laughing and crying out in pain at the same time."
My God.
Yeah, so, like, that's kind of great. Yeah, so, yeah, every time I went, I thought, "There cannot be anything else left in there." But there was. I'm sure the raw vegan eating did not help at all.
No,
Oh my
probably
gosh.
not, no.
Yeah. Yeah, she's like, "What if I pooped my shorts on The Bachelor in front of 8 million viewers? I'd have to move to Antarctica and live with the
I don't know,
penguins."
I think she'd be a legend. I would be
I
fine with her.
honestly I honestly maybe that would have been the redemption she needed. Made her
Right?
look
Yeah.
human when they were trying to make her look so bad. People would have
Yeah.
been like, but yeah,
Poop your
she's
pants
just
on TV. That solves everything.
yeah, I think so. But she was just talking about like how, yeah, everybody was like, on each other's nerves
Mhm.
and then like yeah. Oh, yeah. And there was, like she wanted to be friendly with, like, Rachel and Blakely, but that just didn't work. Rachel was getting pissed off because she had PMS. Like, it was just like everybody was in like a bad shape. By the
Everybody
time
was
they got to
just
Puerto
going
Rico,
through it.
it was like not good at
Oh,
all.
part of me, I was just here.
Yeah, I was just here and I was not pooping my brains out, but this time I am. So very lucky for me.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so um let's see. Oh yeah, this was sad too. So let's see, where was it? She went to the stairwell outside of Ben's room and she said, like, I hope I'm a sight for sore eyes because after the date with Elise, his eyes are pretty sore. And she's like, I actually liked Elise a lot. I don't know why I said that. I feel bad. And she like helped
She
us
just
work out
said it
because she
to
was a
say it.
personal trainer. She's like, that was so mean. That was like not cool. Um, but yeah, she sees him like sitting in like this, or he sees her sitting in the stairwell. They get wine, they go down to the beach. And then yeah, then there was some hanky panky in the water. Okay.
Insertion, insertion.
I'm not saying it, but she
She
says
says it.
it.
She says in the book.
And she's like, it
I'm
was
just
it
doing the hand gesture for everyone.
for anyone listening.
Yeah.
Steve just made a lewd hand gesture. We're gonna get demonetized when we don't make any money to begin with. But yeah,
Do they
so
do that? Is this
I'm just
is this
saying,
a demonetization?
stop doing it. So anyway, yeah, so this was interesting. They went like skinny dipping and, did a little something in the ocean and she's like,
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe it made it on TV, just saying.
I like how
Um,
it's so they're like, "Yeah, so we banged in the ocean, but really he just popped it in, like, once," and then it was just like, "No." It's like, "What?"
yeah, and she's like, well, it was the waves. The waves were tough. So anyway,
No, what are you gonna do?
yeah. But she was like, yeah, I don't know. He was listening to our song and he was thinking about me all the time. I can't believe I feel this way already so soon. You know what's interesting? When you watch this season back, at least for me, I feel like he gives the women absolutely nothing on camera.
Mhm.
Like he doesn't react differently. Like you can tell he's into Courtney and stuff,
Yeah.
but like he also kind of gives Courtney almost nothing.
Mhm.
Like, until the very end, like, until, like, the proposal and all of that, and he gets a little emotional, like, until then, he's, like, very diplomatic. He's like,
Yeah.
"Wow, that's really great. It's so nice that you said that to me
Mhm.
about me. I
No,
really
he
like that."
he he seems like a little robot boy, like,
Yes!
he does not give a lot of emotion,
So
which
it's
makes
interesting,
sense,
yeah.
like, when she describes how he is later
Off
as a
camera.
partner off camera,
Mhm.
it's like, "Okay, all of this is lining up."
Yeah. So it's interesting to me that he even said this stuff to her.
Mhm.
Like, it doesn't watching it back, I'm like, what they edited and delivered to us, he didn't give any of the women, like, anything,
Mm-mm.
So, if that's what you had to deal with and you were extrapolating and, like, to quote, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, like, you're getting love kernels, like,
Yeah.
that's what it felt like, very love kernel-y,
Mhm.
just not a whole lot, but yeah, so let's see, keeping it real, just looking through my notes, um oh, yeah. This was cool too. She gave production lingo, which I thought was interesting.
Mhm. I
The
like that.
10-1, the 10-2. Contestant has a tingle. The contestant needs to go number 2. Um, yeah, the name they had to call Ben in public was William.
Oh, yeah, so they
Yeah.
wouldn't, like, catch him in the airport or anything. Which the thing
Yeah.
about Ben too is, like, the fact that he was so paranoid that, like, "Oh, no, people are gonna find me, so I gotta do all this stuff." It's just like, you're such a wiener. Like, nobody cares, Ben. Just
Like, you mean after filming?
after filming, yeah.
Yeah. Because like, during filming, I get why they do that, but yeah,
Yeah,
after well,
after filming.
he was just very much like, "I am a celebrity now. I'm very
Mhm.
famous, and you cannot talk to me, and I'm going to go do the New Year's Eve show, and I'm way cooler than you." It's just, like, so weird.
Yeah, it's
Oh, this was
lame.
sad. This was around the time, like, that Casey started calling Courtney a Black Widow. Again, like, not true.
Mhm.
Um and yeah, Nikki's like, I want you to be with someone who's going to be there for you and give you 110%. And, they were all just like being like so, I don't know, so mean to her.
Yeah.
Um, this was another old reference now, Patty Stanger. She goes, "Patty Stanger, the millionaire matchmaker, would have ripped him a new one if he arranged any of these asinine dates on her Bravo show." That was, like, all the daring dates and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, she got to do, like, this Mayan temple date or whatever, and then oh, yeah, Rachel told her about this witch hunt with KCB and Nikki, and so she said, "Bye, can't stand you all," before she left. This was kinda cool too, they, like, flew in a plane flown by Jimmy Buffett's personal pilot, that's kinda neat.
Mhm.
Like, I was not, like, a fan of Jimmy Buffett in any
So
way,
you're a
shape, or
big old
form.
parrot head, aren't you?
No, I'm not, not at all. But you know what's interesting? Apparently, he and I heard this from somebody who worked for him. He knew every single person on his staff. He had like 200 staff members. He knew all of their names. He knew everything about them and was like, and took the
Hmm.
time to get to know all of them and was very kind and very generous and treated everybody with lots of respect. One
Well,
of the
that's
best
nice.
people to work for, apparently. So, you know, may you rest, Jimmy. So it's interesting. So that would be kind of a cool experience though to be like, oh, it's a personal pilot, very fancy. Um, let's see. Oh yeah. Oh, this was interesting too when they get into the fantasy suite stuff. It was interesting to hear her talk about the things that she thinks like fell apart with like the other women. We're not quite
Mhm.
there in the book, but 'cause, one of the things Ben says is like, "Oh, my dad," because like, his dad died, and so, like, when he sees, like, inspiring things instead of like, "Oh my god," he says, "Oh, my dad." But he's also, like, an atheist, and apparently that, like, did not go over well with Nikki in the fantasy suite. So, it's like,
She's
that's
like,
one of the
yeah.
things that, like, yeah,
That's
did not go so well.
that's so funny too, because I always think about this with fantasy suites, because obviously there's, like, the issue of, like, sexual compatibility, but then also you could finally talk about real stuff, and what if, like, you really like someone, and then all of a sudden they're like, "I'm a hardline Christian Republican," and you're like, "Oh, no." Like,
Yeah, I feel like you should be able to pick up what they're putting down before that,
right?
you'd think, but, I
You would
mean,
think
maybe.
so.
Yeah,
But
maybe
who
someone will
knows?
surprise you, like,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be so weird. Like, I mean, there's like, I mean, even there's some little things for me that are like kind of non-negotiables. Like, um, I don't know. Like, if I was like about to marry someone and they said like I could never have a dog, I'd be like, well,
Mhm.
we're not going to work.
Yes.
Okay? Do you
Because
know me?
Walter is a beautiful boy.
Like, I just tried to steal my sister-in-law's puppy, okay? I'm trying to get as many dogs to my house as possible. I said,
Yeah.
"Ruby, do you wanna get in the trunk? Come to our house, come have some play dates, you're adorable. I don't even care that you're teething and potty training. Get in the car. Get in the car." I'm like, heaven forbid, whenever it is that Tuck passes, I might get an obscene number of dogs. It might get really, really dark really fast. Just
Yeah,
be
you
way too many dogs.
that's what you need to do. If there's a hole in your heart, you fill it with the animal of your
Fill it
choice.
with dogs
Yeah.
until you can't
Right.
breathe because 'cause you're kind of allergic to dogs and you still own them.
Same. I mean, I'm
But they
allergic to
own you.
cats and I have 3, so
I mean, that's the thing, it's like you gotta do that. You gotta
Mhm,
do that. So, yeah, I mean, I would be fine with a cat. I mean, if my dogs didn't try to well, if Walter didn't try to eat cats,
mhm.
I could potentially own one. But, like, yeah, I mean, even things like that small, I'd be like, "Oh, this isn't gonna work." Like, "You
Yeah.
will never have a dog?" Like, no,
No.
that goes against who I am as a person, so I have to say bye, or if, like,
Mhm.
I don't know, there's, like, certain things like that where it's just, like, we don't have one hobby in common, like, not one, like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't like doing one thing together, that would be hard, but yeah, it's like those big things like, politics and religion and like the way you want to parent or what, you know what I mean? Like these
Mhm.
big life view thing, or if you want to be a parent, it's like those kinds of things. Like if you don't see eye to eye on those, it's like, yikes. And then you're in that far and you've been in this like romantic scenario and like you're all mixed up and it's your first time like getting to spend quiet time with someone. Like, I don't know. That's got to
Yeah.
be a lot to think about.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, oh god, she also well, I'm not even gonna say this Chris Brown reference.
Oh,
Um,
that was the one that made me cringe the hardest. I was like, "Oh, no!"
yeah, that was bad. You'll have to read the book to find out. But then she also talks about, Jimmy Buffett's personal pilot again, back to LA. Because there was a hurricane headed to the island, and they had to, like,
Mm.
get out really fast. Yeah, so they had to leave Belize. really fast. I think this was one of the reasons I wanted to go to Belize was this season.
Season of The Bachelor?
Yeah, much like Banff, when they went to Banff, I was like,
Hmm.
I gotta check out Banff, and I still haven't been to either of those places, so I gotta get my ass in gear.
Mm.
Um, let's see. Okay, we get to the hometowns. All right, so yeah, the interesting thing about the hometown is she basically like, oh, first of all, they couldn't tell people like why there was a film crew, so they said, tell them she's filming a mayonnaise commercial. Which, like, sure. I mean,
Yeah, why not?
it's believable. It's Courtney. She could be filming any kind of commercial, but I'm like,
Mhm.
why a mayonnaise?
Yeah, specifically.
They're like, there's going to be a lot of white people here, so just tell them it's a mayonnaise commercial.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and yeah, they said, don't worry about cooking any big meals. And then this was also sad because apparently this was during Halloween, and so her mom had to take all her decorations down. She was really sad about it. It's so cute. Her family
Oh
is, like,
god.
adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really, sad stuff. But yeah, let's see. Okay. Yeah, so she said she wanted to go, like, oh, yeah, ideal Saturday activity. Okay, so she wrote these vows. Basically, there was supposed to be, like, this artist that she was gonna work with and, like, commission a painting or something like that, and then
Mhm.
they weren't available or they couldn't afford it, or I can't now I'm trying to remember. I gotta find that again. You know what I'm talking about? It was supposed to be
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
she was gonna have, like, a painting done of Ben,
Yeah.
but it was gonna cost, like, a gajillion dollars, and production wouldn't pay for it, so she just made him, like, a little photo book thing. It was
Yeah.
just like, "Past, present, and our future. We're gonna name our baby Forest."
Well, that happened later. The scrapbook happened later
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that
yeah.
was like Fantasy Suites or the last night or something like
Mhm.
that. But she wanted to go. She wanted to go to the farm where she wanted to get married someday.
Mhm.
But she didn't want to get fake married there. She just wanted to go there. And then yeah, they're like, "Do you want to do fake vows?" And she's like, "I guess so. I don't know." But she was yeah. The other thing she was trying to do is like get this like person to paint something instead, and then it just like yeah, it didn't happen. So
Didn't
then they
work.
had to like do this vow thing, and she was like, "Okay." And she spent a lot of time like agonizing around the vows and stuff,
Mhm.
and yeah, it didn't work. I mean, it yeah, it that's what happened. The painting didn't work. Sorry, I was also reading this at the same time. I wanna do this Guess Who. Um, I don't know if you have ideas on this. I don't
Mhm.
know if I do either. On a hometown date, this bachelor promised the contestant's young brother that he would be back to teach him how to do things like throw a football. When the show ended and he didn't pick the contestant, the little guy burst into tears and asked if he was the reason why the bachelor didn't propose. Guess who? I don't know, maybe Brad, I would
I
assume,
don't
but
know,
based on
yeah.
the time, but I didn't look into it. But I was
No.
like, "God, that's so sad."
It's really sad.
Yeah.
Brad
I
makes
also
sense. Yeah.
I don't know, Brad's just so flaky, like, it would make sense that it was
Mhm.
Brad, and it was just recent, but, at the time, but I don't know. I didn't watch those seasons, so I can't tell you, and I didn't, like, Google, like, "Courtney's secrets revealed," or
Yeah, yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. Um Yeah, this was interesting too. They get to the vow renew or the vow exchanging thing, and one thing that's kinda interesting is this was, like, the day she didn't like Ben's hair. She said, "He looked like Francine from those Arthur cartoons on PBS." And yet, I was still very attracted to him. I thought that
See,
was, like, a
that's a good
very
reference. I can get behind that one.
well, that's not old, that's, like, perpetual, in
Yeah.
my
Arthur is
opinion, so
forever.
yeah,
Mhm.
Arthur is forever, so unlike Wishbone, unfortunately, because I bring up
Mhm.
Wishbone and people are like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, Walter looks like a big wishbone, that's how you have to know who Wishbone is to have that reference make sense."
Yeah. He's a
Um,
literary dog. Come on.
yeah, "What's the story, Wishbone?" So yeah, at first when they were doing the vows too, she was like, are these real? Is
Like, are
this
these legally
guy
binding?
legit? Because it was kinda and then he was like, at the very end, he's like, "If this was real, this is what would happen, but you can kiss if you want to." And she's like, "Okay." Um and then, yeah, there was, yeah, she wanted to show him her childhood home and, oh yeah, this was interesting. Like her dad shared some of his takeaways from the day and all of that. Um, he goes, "I did think it was kind of odd that Ben asked me if I ever went skinny dipping in our swimming pool." Then Courtney told me they had gone skinny dipping in Puerto Rico, but not to worry because it had been shot from a great distance and you could not see much in the moonlight. Ben and I had a one-on-one discussion in the backyard. I could see he was truly smitten with Courtney, and I told him that marriage is life's greatest gamble. I asked him, "Are you ready to make that bet, Ben?" That was another clip that they used a ton on the show. They made it seem like he was like being like kind of a hard ass, but he like wasn't. I don't know. It was
No,
so
no.
weird. Yeah. And he answered, "I'm ready to be in a serious, committed relationship." And Courtney goes, "Hang on. That doesn't sound like marriage to me. That sounds like dating." Because
Yep,
she's smart and
yep.
she saw it. And that's the other thing. He just thought she wasn't smart because she didn't go to school. And his mom sucks.
Yeah.
Fuck Ben's mom. She's the worst.
She is the
She's
worst.
so miserable.
Yeah, and
Okay, we'll get to
Ben is
that.
a
Yeah.
clown too because
Yeah.
yeah, like, this is a huge hang up for him. It's like, "Oh, you didn't go to school, so you must be dumb, and I don't respect you." It's like, "Dude, she's smarter than you are. Shut up."
Yeah, she's way smarter than him.
Mhm.
But that's why he has to co-own all those companies. That's
Yeah.
why, because he's got to fill that void. Um, but yeah, so she knew after the hometowns that Casey was going to be eliminated because I mean, it makes sense. Like they're the
Mhm.
most different, and like, and yeah, it was just like, "Are you going to take our little girl away to the big city?" It's like, oh, this is not going to go well. Like, you two do not mesh at all. But she has like a freak out in the car, and she's like, "What the fuck happened? What the fuck happened?" She's crying. It's like it is one of like the biggest like rejection reactions we've seen on the show, like ever.
Yeah.
Um, the most dramatic limo driving ever. And then this was wild. Her Casey's limo driver dropped Casey off at Courtney's hotel on accident.
Mhm. Yeah, that was
Ouch, ouch.
that's real nice. I love
That
that.
sucks. That sucks so bad. So anyway, they're in Switzerland. It's the fantasy suite. There's just so much to talk about. Sorry, everyone. Well, hopefully you find this interesting. Actually, I apologize for nothing. You're listening to us, and if you made it this far, great. I'm glad you're interested. Um, she talks about some very spicy um bachelor fantasy suite and pre-fantasy suite moments in here,
Mhm.
and you can guess who. Well, I won't read these, but she said show creator Mike Fleiss once claimed that the bachelor has sex an average of 3 times per season, and the action doesn't only go down in the fantasy suite. So
Mm.
she shares a couple of blind items in here. Kind of interesting. The
Mhm.
one that was really interesting is this bachelorette contestant was such a slime ball. He hooked up with an ex at his hotel right before hometowns. Don't know who that was, but that's
Mm.
interesting.
Don't like
Oh
it.
yeah, this was like, yeah, Nikki got sent home, and she felt like a fool and all that stuff, and um, yeah, but I mean, at this point, Courtney was like, "Maybe I have it in the bag." It's really hard to say. But then she met his mom, Barbara Babs
Oh,
Flajnik,
Babs.
and Julia, his sister. And she said they flew all the way to Switzerland to interrogate Lindsay and me on camera. They liked Lindsay, although I don't know, maybe they would have been as hard on Lindsay in the end. Hard to say. I do think Lindsay's more like conventionally successful in a way
Yeah.
that they can conceptualize. So they look at her and go, "Well, she went to school and she works at this recruiting firm,"
Yep.
and
Yep.
they had like similar lifestyles, like California, horses, outdoorsy, whatever, and so like they were like, "Oh,
Mhm.
yes, you are one of us, but you're like the ranch version of us or whatever."
The
Like I don't know what the hell
ranch
they thought.
version.
Yeah, like, Lindsay's family was so lovely and so sweet, and they were really nice to Ben. They were super cool, very
Mhm.
normal people. And Courtney's family was also very lovely and great. But yeah, it was just like I think Babs was like, "Oh, Lindsay could be one of us. Like, we can see her
Yeah.
folding into the family."
She
And
did
with
not see Courtney
Courtney,
that way at all.
no,
She thought it was
she's
a total
like, "What do I
outsider.
even do with you? What do I even do? Did you go
Yeah.
to school? Did you go to school? Oh, you didn't go to school?
So you just
Oh,
stand around looking pretty? Is that what you
yeah,
do?
like, what's your backup plan?" It's like, "Oh my god, shut up." Like,
No.
you sound so miserable. but yeah, so she kind of knew what Babs was like a little bit from TV, and she
Yeah.
said she seems snobby and uptight, the polar opposite of my mom. My mom can be tough too, but she's always the life of the party. To butter up Babs and Julia, I bought them gifts: a vintage leather bag for Julia's Vespa and a wine rack shaped like a bicycle for Babs. Those seem like good gifts, like thoughtful, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah, she liked Julia, although Julia was like, "You're vegan? Weird." I was like, "Okay, just leave her alone." I mean, the raw vegan thing would be miserable, but, like, it's her choice, like,
Mhm.
whatever. Um, and then and then apparently, yeah, like, they were setting up the shot. Babs said to Courtney, like, "Do I look okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, you look great." And then, like, the camera started, and she's just like, "Why did you go to college?" Like, "What the hell's wrong with you, Babs? You're so
I
mean."
know, so aggressive.
Oh my god, like, so unnecessary. Um, but yeah, so she was, and apparently she called the hotel a dump, and, like, yes, she seems like one
Mhm.
of those people that you just can't please, like, she's
No.
just always gonna be miserable no matter what. Oh, this was it. Um, there was a it was in Zurich. It wasn't at the hometown. Sorry, I
Oh, yeah.
screwed that up. In Zurich, there was this artist that she knew named Andy Denzler, and he painted her portrait in LA. And he declined to paint Ben's portrait because they wouldn't pay for it. Courtney couldn't afford it, and he didn't need the publicity. So that's when she did the leather journal. Was then. So it was
Mhm.
on. It was when they were in Zurich. Sorry, everyone. I know all of you who also just watched this season from
Season
11,
16
12
of The
years ago
Bachelor, yeah.
are like, "What the hell is wrong with you? Why don't you remember this?" So yeah, that's what it was. And then yeah, she had like pasted photos, and she was like, "Oh, this is our future kid's name," and all that stuff, like you said. Um, and then they did a terrifying helicopter ride around the Matterhorn and another picnic, apparently. And yeah, she gave him the scrapbook, she gave him a love letter, and she said like something like felt kind of weird and off. And she was like, maybe he's gonna pick Lindsay. I don't know. Um, and yeah, she goes, "Well, if you didn't know it by now or just skimmed over the prologue of this book, how rude. Ben and I were betrothed November 16th, 2011, after he called my dad and asked for my hand in marriage." Um, yeah, so he did ask permission, but, like, I don't think, yeah, her dad didn't seem, like, that keen on it either, like, "Something about this guy doesn't smell right." They were able to, like, tell some people, and they did, like, their happy couples and all that stuff, and,
Mhm.
they had to set up email addresses. You're never gonna guess what the email addresses were. You'll never guess, ever in a million years. I never woulda guessed. Toots McGooderson and Mrs. Toots McGooderson.
Of course.
Mhm.
Makes perfect sense.
Like you do. Toots McGooderson and Mrs. Toots McGooderson. Yeah, which whatever. And it sounds like, yeah, they like sent cute stuff back and forth for a while. But yeah, it was like quickly Ben was just like very interested in the fame of it all.
Mhm.
And he also would like talk about other women's bodies like to Courtney in a way that was like very weird. Um and then she turned the tables on him, and he's like, "Oh, I actually see why that's gross and weird now." It's like, "Oh, really? Now you see it?
Now you
Okay,
see it, yeah.
thanks." Yeah. Um but yeah, there wasn't a lot. I mean, there's not a lot to say about this stuff outside of like he sounds insufferable to cook with. That like he knows everything about making food in a kitchen. Like that's the thing. You look at his LinkedIn. I think a LinkedIn is the window to someone's soul. I really do. Like, you look at my LinkedIn, I make a lot of sense. That's all I'm saying. You look at his LinkedIn, he makes a lot of sense. Like, someone who thinks they need to be good at everything
Mhm.
and doesn't want anybody else to be good at anything, and talks down to people who aren't good at things, is the
Ugh.
kind of person who would have 5 overlapping jobs, and they're all co-founder.
Mhm.
That's what I'm saying. The vibe is consistent.
Yep, that's fair, that's fair.
That's all I'm saying.
No, he seems
Uh
I would not be able to spend an hour with this man, let alone be engaged to him. Like, I
Yeah.
good god, yeah.
He doesn't have the onion in his LinkedIn experience. Okay, but I do. Anyway, and then yeah, he would always he would use like all these like weird slang, like pull the trigger for throwing up and a dart for a cigarette
I've heard
and
of darts before. That
sure.
makes sense.
And he'd say BA instead of badass. Okay, but the most cringy thing, did you listen to his rap?
No, I didn't listen to his rap. I thought about it though, because she talks about it. She's like, "You can look it up on YouTube." I'm like, "I should look that up on YouTube," and I
Yeah.
didn't do it. Is it that it's got to be horrible,
I
right?
haven't listened to it. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Yeah, Cream Dreams. It's called
Ew.
Cream Dreams, okay?
Blah.
So bad. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh my gosh. Hold on. I think I found it. Oh my god, I didn't oh, jeez. This is okay, it's already cringe. I'll just tell you that much. Um, I gotta turn the volume. Wait, is the volume just, like, not working?
Are you not sending it to me? Is that
I will send it to you, but I don't know if there's any
No, I
sound.
mean I mean, like, are you I don't know if your sound if, like, your computer audio is part of the mix to
Oh, maybe.
yeah. Little This is how the sausage is made, folks, here on the podcast.
Wait,
That's
you could hear it and I couldn't?
No, no, no,
Oh,
I
okay.
can't hear it. I can't hear it.
I can't hear it either, is what I'm saying. Usually I can
Oh,
hear it. So anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's fine. Oh, I see why. I see why I couldn't hear it. It's fine. But I sent it to you. Yeah, now
okay.
I can hear it. Did you hear that? You didn't hear that.
I didn't, but I'm about to click
Okay,
this
that's good.
link.
Okay, we're both gonna watch this Cream Dream. We'll post it in the show notes, everyone.
Oh god.
I don't think I can watch more than 10 seconds of this. I'm gonna be really honest. It is so cringe. It is so cringe. It is worse than Courtney made it sound. Your face is everything. Okay, everyone, you need to watch this for a second. Um, there's one subscriber to this channel. It's got 4,500 views. This is somebody who obviously tried to who unearthed it and it's still on YouTube.
Mhm.
And what the first comment is after seeing this, I'm on Courtney's side. He's so nasty and creepy and a total pretentious jerk. I couldn't stand him before, and he's even worse now.
God. It's
Oh,
so
it's really
bad.
bad. It's really bad. I watched like 3 more seconds and had to pause it.
No.
I did not make it past 27 seconds. I'm gonna be really honest with you, so you're gonna have to watch it on your own, but it is bad. It is really bad. It is very cringe. It is not funny or interesting, and he did this after filming.
Yeah, this is like
This was
Z
what he
tier dick in a box. It's not good.
Yes, it's like yeah, it's
Mm.
incredibly unfunny Lonely Island. It's really, really bad. Um Yeah, so just so you know, that's the kind of thing that that we're dealing with. Um, but yeah, there was this rumor, so like they were in doing happy couples and stuff. This was before the show came out, all of that. And there was like a rumor that Ben was seen out like at a club or something like that, kissing
Mhm.
someone. And he, to be fair, I mean, this is not, I'm not defending him. He's trash. But he did try to get out in front of it. That's what I'm gonna say. He didn't admit it. The thing is,
Mhm.
in this book, in the show, Courtney admits the things that she does. He's trying to get out in front of it and try to like run damage control and lessen the impact of the thing he did. And so he was like, just so you know, like it's just someone I kind of knew and I give him a kiss on the cheek and whatever. And that was all. And it's like from those photos, which I also haven't looked at, but I'm sure they looked bad.
Mhm.
Um Now I'm like Googling that too. Um she's like, "No, it was, like, pretty obvious that he was cheating." Like, it was not, like, up for debate. It was not, like,
Mhm.
this questionable thing. It was, like, very clearly he was cheating. So, yeah, and he's like, "Oh, it's an old friend, whatever. It doesn't mean anything," and, yeah, I don't know. I can't f
Ugh,
oh,
Ben.
wait, no, that's not it. Or is it? Oh, maybe it was. Yikes. Okay, if it's the picture I just saw, there's, like, no mistaking it, but I can't tell if that's Courtney or some other lady. It's hard for me to tell, but that's, like, a full-on kiss if it is. But I
Yeah.
think some of it got scrubbed from the internet.
Oh, for sure at
Yeah,
this
I think
point.
a lot of it got removed. But yeah, it was pretty bad. It was incriminating. And the thing was Courtney couldn't go anywhere. It's like and then
Mhm.
once the show started airing and people started, seeing her as a villain, she couldn't go anywhere without getting mobbed. She would get like
Yeah.
paparazzi and stuff. and she said it was just, like, awful, and then okay, this is also really funny, because like, Ben obviously enjoyed every minute of, like,
Oh, he
being
loved the fame.
famous,
Yeah.
like, it's so slimy, it's so gross. She goes, "He was also tippity tapping away on his blog for people.com."
Which is also fucked up too because, like, he
Yeah.
had this, like, blog where he got to talk about Bachelor stuff, and then he would say shitty things, including things, like, about her, but he would
Mhm.
never, like, share this shit. He would just, like,
Yes.
smash that publish button. It's like, "Dude, what are you doing?
And
Stop
listen,
being a
like, I
selfish little prick."
yeah, like, I know Ashley and JP didn't make it, they didn't make it the whole way, but they were together for a really long time, right? And, like and they ended on good terms, appear what it
Mhm,
sounds like is they're, like, good co-parents and buddies and whatever, now, and, she kept comparing what was happening with her and Ben to, like, Ashley and JP, because like, Ashley was getting shit, which also, like, doesn't make any sense because Ashley was fine and normal and cool, and, like, I don't know why the hell people are giving her shit. She's still one of my favorite
mhm,
bachelorettes of all time. And, JP was like, fiance of the year and, like, just kept like he'd send her flowers and he had her back and he encouraged her and he was like ride or die for her. It's like and Ben just could not be bothered to do the same for Courtney. It's
mhm.
just like, come on, what the hell's wrong with you? Like,
Yeah,
that's like that is base level. That is like bare minimum thing that you should do for someone else.
totally.
Also, Courtney starts talking about like the women of Bachelor Nation who talk shit about her outside of the show,
Mhm.
one of whom was Trista. Pretty bad too, like, a lot of
Yeah.
slut shaming, weird behavior,
A lot of
Trista.
yeah. Well, and
Log
it seems
off,
like a lot of
log
people were
off.
like, I don't know, it's like they were clout chasing. They're like, "Oh, here's an easy target for me. I'm just gonna dunk on Courtney and try to juice my numbers."
But who was nice to her?
Oh, Jilly, right?
Jilly!
Jilly.
Jilly! Yeah, Jilly went out of her way to be nice to Courtney. We got a
Mhm.
really the only thing Courtney mentioned about Jilly in this whole book was that Jilly was nice to her and basically said, like, "Hey, I've been through it, and if you need anything, I'm here. I got your back."
Totally, yeah.
We
It's
stand
great.
Jilly. And she said she's like one of the nicest people ever. And there was also
Same.
I was reading this other thing because it was like the guy that she had ended up with and then they like broke up with after the show, after Jilly was the
Mhm.
bachelorette. He also has like the nicest things to say about her. He's like, everything that you think she is that and more. She's like the best person.
That's nice.
So just saying, Jilly remains undefeated. It's and Trista, like, that put such a bad taste in my mouth about Trista, but it doesn't surprise me that she acted like that because she does I
Mhm.
mean, it's like, I mean, obviously, there's, like, some weird things going on, like things aren't 100% perfect, but I think she does want to be like present as perfect all the time.
Oh, for
So,
sure.
it's like of course the women who had her back were the ones who are like I'm a real human and like I have flaws and I'm not perfect. Like Ashley was supportive and Jilly was supportive and I think she
Mhm.
said Allie was also supportive. I can't remember. I think she said something nice about Allie though. Um which also doesn't surprise me that Allie was, like, cool and normal and whatever.
Yeah.
And then oh, yeah, there was, like, this weird thing where they were on, like, a double date. It was like Emily and, Jeff with 1 F, right? Wasn't that his name?
Yeah.
It's the weirdest name. So it was, like, Emily and Jeff were at, like, the table, and it was, like, her and Ben, and they were trying to, like wasn't it that one where they were trying to, like, out woo each other or whatever? It wasn't
Oh, yeah.
or was it the Ashley and JP date? I don't know. She did a couple double dates. She did and
Well,
then, like
this is Ben's thing too, where it's just like he shows 0 affection unless he's in front of other people that he wants
yeah,
to
and then
think
he's,
that
like, got something to prove. It's,
yeah.
like, so weird. But I know that she did a double date with, like, Ashley and JP. I think that one, it was, like, Ashley and JP were just, like, being themselves, and then Ben felt like he had to play into it, and there was,
Mhm.
like, some weird competition with Emily because then it was, like, they were both kinda gunning for Ari pretty fast, so that was kinda interesting.
Mhm.
Um Yeah, she says a lot of nice things about Ari later. But yeah, so she talks about let's see, the paparazzi and the smear campaign. Oh, this was also interesting too because like yeah, Ben had like hooked up with Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Oh, yeah, which is, like, totally weird, and then he was like, "She's too
Yeah.
clingy."
I was like, she's Jennifer Love Hewitt. Who are
Yeah,
you?
oh my
You're
gosh, yeah. I'm
nobody.
sorry, if Jennifer Love Hewitt was clingy to me and I was Ben, I would thank my lucky stars. It just
Yeah,
I would
seriously. She gave
totally
you the
hitch my
time of
wagon.
day. Yeah,
Yeah. Come
please.
on, man.
Yeah, this was interesting too that Courtney said, "I thought it was kind of funny that right before the show aired, she was photographed looking miserable carrying the book Why Men Love Bitches." I joked that it was a jab at me. Like, she is self-deprecating, that's the thing. Courtney's
Yeah.
likable. Once you like, if you just hear her out a little bit, she becomes likable very quickly.
Oh, totally.
And that's, like, the thing that is yeah, was unfortunate 'cause you just didn't get enough time with her.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and then apparently, like, Ben was on Ellen, and she was like, "She manipulated you. She came off not nice. She was just playing you, man. You got played." And he
Mhm.
couldn't say anything, so he just yeah, like, he just kinda had to skate around it, and then he said to Courtney, like, "You probably don't wanna watch it." And this was, like, around the time where she's like, "Oh, things are, I guess, not gonna be so chill." Like,
Yeah.
things are gonna be pretty bad. Maybe things will blow over, and it's like, "No," you know? Um, oh yeah, this was interesting too. This is kind of what I was saying. Like he kind of gave the women nothing. He had been called out for being boring and insensitive to the girls, especially when KCB admitted to him she had overcome a serious eating disorder, and his response seemed unmoved, uncaring.
Mhm.
I tried to calm him down. I assured him it was going to blow over, but it did not blow over. um, yeah, that was pretty bad. I mean, I just feel like he tried to come off very polished and it just yeah, felt robotic and fake.
Mhm.
Oh, this was okay, I do have one of Trista's things where she said, as a mother, um, I can't imagine that Courtney's is even remotely proud of her. Poor choices in actions, words, and attitude. And then she also said in a television interview she wanted to reach through to the television and slap Courtney. It's
Hmm.
like, Jesus, yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah, of course I of course I highlighted the Jilly thing. A producer contacted me and said Bachelorette Jillian Harris had reached out offering advice. If she needs to talk, tell her to call me. Unfortunately, I had no idea who she was. If I had just asked my super fan sister Rachel, she would have told me how sweet Jillian is and how she stoically survived brutal press about her engagement to alleged cheater Ed Swiderski. Regretfully, I never called her, but I want to thank her now for being one of the few who didn't judge me. Yeah, that's right. We ride for Jilly.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's our queen. That's
Yeah.
why we're her number 1
We
subscriber,
love
box
we
subscriber.
love Jilly. Now and forever. I said something nice about what was it? I was like, "Oh, that might be my favorite thing." What was the candle. I got the cereal candle that smells
Mhm.
like Fruit Loops, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"This might be my favorite thing from the Jilly box," and Tuck goes, "Oh, here she goes again."
Back on her Jilly bullshit.
Talking about Jilly. Like, it it's so good. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I purchase something from
Yeah.
someone in Bachelor Nation and it's all good quality and I enjoy it.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
she gave you a dinner bell.
Yeah, and I rang it at Thanksgiving. I ring it every Thanksgiving. That's my ceremony.
I love that.
That's my Jilly tradition. Let's see. Okay. Oh, are these all of Trista's tweets then too? Yeah. Yeah, she goes, "Get a life, Sutter," and she puts, like, all of Trista's mean tweets about Courtney in the book.
Yeah,
Hell
they're
yeah.
just, like, right there,
The
just yeah.
internet is forever. Yeah, good for
Mhm.
you, Courtney. Um, let's see. Yeah, this is when she talked about JP being super fiancé. Okay,
Mhm.
let's see. Paps, Paps, Paps. I'm like, "We're at 2 hours. I gotta wrap this up." Oh, yeah, she also, like, made Ben a playlist of love songs
Mhm.
for Valentine's Day.
Very sweet.
Yeah, but one of them was 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, so her subconscious was telling her something.
She knew, she knew.
Yeah. Um, oh, and then this was interesting too, and she admits this is a terrible thing to say. She goes, "This is a terrible thing to say, but on February 11th, Whitney Houston died suddenly and tragically, and I was thankfully forgotten and not followed by the paparazzi for a few weeks." What a weird thing to have happen when all this is going on and go, "Well, okay, that's then I." Oh, and then she had, like, this weird interaction with Russell Brand, another very dated thing.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, no."
Yeah. Yeah. And apparently she was, like, compared to him. I'm like, "What the hell?" It's such a
Not a
strange
comparison you want, I don't think.
yeah, yeah. And then this was interesting because Courtney really did have a chance to, like, talk shit about Ben on several occasions. One of them was for the Women Tell All, but then she kinda, like, changed her mind at the last minute and decided to just be, like, nice because Ben it's like anytime Ben thought maybe his image the way that I interpret it, it's like anytime he thought his image could get tarnished, he tried to, like, smooth things over and, like, be nice and, like, "Well, you
Mhm.
don't have to like, we can still do this together," type of a thing, and anytime he thought maybe she would say something negative about him, he would, like, pull her back in. It's just, like,
Mhm.
ugh, so slimy. Um, yeah, it was not good. So, like, you see all of this, like, the women tell all the biggest thing was really, like, Courtney. I mean, there was, like, the Blakely stuff, there was some Samantha stuff, there was,
Yeah.
whatever, but, like, Courtney comes out and they are just so mean to her, and she's
Oh,
apologizing from the jump.
it's like well, and the fact of the matter is too is like she didn't even have to do that. Like she talks about in the book
Mhm.
how she's like, I didn't
It was
have to do the
optional.
woman tell all. It was an optional thing. It wasn't part of my contract, and I chose to do it. And basically, they just threw it to the wolves. And then there
Yeah.
was this like, what was it? Was it like technical problems or something happened? And basically, there was all this downtime. Or no, it was Chris Harrison got really sick. That was
Mhm.
it. Chris Harrison got sick, so he had to go lay down. So basically, they had to pause the tell all, and there was just like an hour of like women off camera just hurling insults at Courtney, and then
Yeah.
accusing her of just wild shit. Like at
Yeah.
one point, she talks about how she was like shaking because she was sobbing so hard, and one of the girls just like, "Oh, there's Courtney laughing again."
Yeah,
So
that was
mean.
Elise, and she liked Elise, but then she
Yeah.
said that thing about sore eyes, and so Elise was like, "You know what? Fuck you also," which, like, I get it, but, like, she wasn't like, it's pretty obvious that she was crying. Like,
Yeah.
she looked miserable.
Mhm.
She looked really hurt, really miserable, and yeah, and so yeah, and she's like, "I found it fascinating that they claimed that I was in this for the fame." Like, it's like she was already, like, banging
Yeah.
famous people,
I
okay?
know. She's
Do you
banging
really
famous
think she
people.
needed
She's
it?
a successful model. Like,
Model,
what?
like, she doesn't need it, like, this
No.
show was beneath her in every way, and she goes, "Nothing could have been further from the truth. Plus, during filming, when the cameras weren't there, so many of these same women sat around talking about what it was gonna be like when they were famous after the show started airing. They were
Mhm.
excited about being recognized and hoping for lucrative opportunities. Hmm, where did we hear this before? Hmm.
Sounds like you're not here for the right reasons.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's, like, one of the cardinal sins, you do not talk about that on the show at all, and I
Uh-uh.
believe that she never said a word of any of that.
Mm-mm.
She would have admitted it if she had, that's the thing.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
yeah, and someone said one audience member made a heart shape with her hand and mouthed, "I love you." That was me in the audience. I was like, "I
I
love you." No,
love
I'm just kidding.
you.
Coming from the past to the future or from the future to the past. Um the verbal abuse became so bad, I was taking him back to my trailer until Chris was ready to shoot again. When he felt well enough to give it another go, the torture continued. It didn't help when he started off with, "The women are understandably pissed. I mean, pissed at you," then left me hanging in the breeze. I'm going to forgive him for not coming to my defense that one time because he was sick, but he did not seem to have my back at all. Yeah, and she really, like, immediately was like, "Listen, I made mistakes, like, I have
Mhm.
regrets, like, this was not good," and people were just, like, upset, and then but Blakely, like, I get it because it's like, she was on the outs with everybody, and she thought she was cool with Courtney, and that would be hurtful, and she's
Yeah.
like, "What did I ever do to you for you to call me a stripper? What I ever do for you to say I'm the kind of girl your boyfriend cheats on me with?" 100% agree, and she was like, "Nothing. You didn't do
Mhm.
anything. Like, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, Elise called her trashy for skinny dipping, and then she thought Jacqueline was her friend, which, I mean, I think they're cool now because, like, she did like, a part of the book and stuff, but
Mhm.
she said, "When I hear you drag my friend's names through the mud, that's what really gets me," and Jennifer called me out for not knowing her name for 6 days. I barely knew her name now.
What
That's
can you
good
do?
revenge. Um But yeah, Casey again tried to come to Courtney's defense, which is like really hard to do when everybody is coming for you. And
Mhm.
Casey was still like, "Listen, you guys, this is unnecessary. You don't need to be like this." And they were like, "What? Shut up," whatever. And then yeah, Emily, like she looked really bad on the women tell all. Watching it again, I was like, "Yikes!" She looks
Yeah.
like such a bitch. She was like, yeah, she goes, it was hard for every last one of us. Did we all react by making these jabs or being negative and rude to everyone? And Courtney's in her head was like, yeah, you hypocrite." She goes,
Yeah.
"I kept that jab to myself." And Emily's like, "Guess what we did? We made friendships to support one another and get through it." Courtney did exactly the opposite. We were human beings and tried to make connections to get through this. She goes, "I absolutely despise this walking disease expert." This time I had no choice. I had to swallow my pride, bend over, and take it up the tailpipe. I mean, she did it the way she needed to do it. She knew she had to just say sorry,
Yep.
even though she knew, like, she was in the wrong for certain things. She wasn't in the wrong for everything. Like,
Mhm. But
yeah,
she just had to
watching it
sit there and eat shit, basically.
yeah, watching it over again, I'm like, Emily is so self-righteous, like, so annoying. I'm like, why did I ever think she was, like, mildly charming? I hate her
Mhm.
now. Sorry, hindsight 2020, all that stuff. Um, and then, yeah, Chris was like, "There's nothing left for you to apologize for." And, yeah, apparently Nikki leaned over to KCB and was like, "I am not going to hug her." And Samantha was like, "She's a bitch. End of story." Oh my
Oh
god,
god.
it's awful. Yeah. And then, yeah, Ben was like, "Okay, I wanna get back together." It's like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
Yeah, the
gross.
on again,
Yeah.
off again bullshit. No, I'm glad she finally just squashed that thing, and then also I think it's funny that she staged a paparazzi photo shoot. Uh
Yes. Well, so this was the sequence of events because it was kinda like they were on the rocks, whatever, and I
Mhm,
think it was one of the times it was because, like, she wasn't there. I think this first time she wasn't there enough for, like, the dog, or did that happen later? I don't know. Like, his
mhm.
dog died, and then she wasn't around the right
Yeah, she,
amount
like
because
it
he
was his
wasn't telling her.
birthday. It was his birthday,
Yes.
and the dog died,
I
and
don't remember exactly when that happened. Yeah.
yeah, and for some reason in her head,
Maybe
she
that
was
was
just
later.
like, "Oh, I should just leave because I should leave," for,
Like,
like
it just he was, like, not talking to her, and he was, like, withdrawn, and it felt
Mhm.
awkward, so she just thought, "Okay, like,
Yeah,
I
and
just
then
don't think that this is happening."
yeah,
Yeah.
so then she left, and then she realized after she left and she was already going home, she's like, "Oh, no, I abandoned my fiancé on his birthday after his
After
dog
his
died."
dog died, that was probably bad, but,
Yeah.
like, it was also, like, weird miscommunicate but I think that happened later, so it's like, they were kind of on the outs. He was, like, letting the press get to him around Valentine's Day, and
Mhm.
then, like, yeah, he was just kinda, like, checked out of their relationship, and she was like, "You know what? I'm gonna do the women tell all." She did the women tell all, they, like, came for her, and then he was like, "I wanna get back together," and then is when the magazine came out,
Mhm.
and it was like and her sister was like, "It does not look good," and, yeah, there was, like, this, yeah, this thing that came out that he was, like, like, kissing someone else and whatever, and
Yeah.
then oh, yeah, there was also, like she was like, stories about her were getting sold and stuff, and, yeah, that was really bad too, including, like, a photo of, like, her naked in a bathtub when
Yeah.
she was sick. Like,
Which
what the hell?
and then that
Yeah.
was, like, foreshadowed because she's in the beginning, she's just like, "There are some naked photos of me, but more on that later." Then she
Yeah,
just
I
goes
was
back
like,
to it.
"Whoa, that's wild."
Mhm.
But yeah, it was like yeah, there was just, like, all this weird, like, paparazzi stuff and whatever, and, um, yeah, and she watched, the finale and after the final rose alone.
Mhm.
Like, that's just so sad. Um, and then there was, like yeah, this thing that they did for was it People or In Touch? Because I know they did a People one, maybe In Touch too, but it was like, they had done, like, this one thing where, like, he'd get, like a makeover or whatever of his
Mhm.
apartment, but then he had to, like, give the furniture back, but he threw a party first.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my god.
furniture's just
Like,
gonna get
talk about
trashed.
inexperience, you know what I mean? So she's like, "So I'm just stressed out the whole time hoping it doesn't get dirty or whatever."
Mhm.
And, like yeah, and she got offered to do Dancing with the Stars. That would have been the redemption arc she needed,
Yep,
and he
and
didn't let her
he
do
was
it.
like, "No," but then he wanted to do his dumb reality show, and then he would the other thing I didn't like either is, like, they would do some guest appearances, but then there were other times too, like, one instance where he, like, withheld money from her or
Yes.
something and then
Well,
pretended like it
that
wasn't a
was
big
the
deal.
furniture thing.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was
the
the furniture
furniture
thing,
thing
yeah.
because it was like they were doing like a makeover and then they also, like, paid for it, and he was
Mhm.
supposed to give her half the money, and he was like, "Well, don't you have enough money?" And she's like, "I lost a lot of opportunities, like, doing the show. Like, are you kidding me?" Like,
Yeah.
and it's not like she got paid to do the show, you know? But yeah, she had an opportunity to be on Dancing with the Stars, and she said it was $125,000 to show up and $30,000 for every week she made it through. That's like
Damn.
really good money.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
take that.
and he said, "If you do it, you won't have a fiance." What a piece of trash. What a
That's a real
piece of
asshole.
trash. Piece of trash.
Dancing with the Stars, that's your line in the sand, buddy? Come on. Come on.
Ridiculous, ridiculous. She's like, "This was not a good start."
Mm.
Yeah, so that was really bad, but yeah, he tried to do this, like, this reality show called Young Sonoma, where it was like, they're starting, like, a winery or whatever, and that never made it off the ground. I think it's just he wanted to feel, like, bigger, better, more important than her
Mhm.
constantly, and he was already, like, way behind, so he had to do anything he could to catch up and make her look bad.
Yep.
Um yeah, yeah, the In Touch Weekly thing was, like, the story that, like, her ex Dylan sold, that picture and all that, like,
Mhm.
really awful. Yeah, here's the young Sonoma. Oh, and then also they had an offer to appear on VH1's Couples Therapy, but, like, that was smart of her to say no
Yeah,
to
that
that.
that
Smart.
don't go on that one.
Terrible show. She, like, was right on, you know? Yeah, and she was also like, "I didn't wanna do, like, a diet pill thing." She's like, "That's weird and gross." So, like, she's got good instincts, except for,
Mhm.
like, being on the show, I guess. Um, but she was just like, "No," and then he asked her to be on the show Young Sonoma, and she was like, "No, I don't wanna do it." And then
No.
they did this, like, supper club or, like, it's called well, not our kinda supper club. It's called Supper Club in LA. They did this, like, appearance or whatever. Um, yeah, and then this was gross. She was like, "Did you go to a strip club last night?" And he's like, "How did you know?" It's like,
So, because he was, like, covered in cocoa butter and
yeah,
glitter?
it's so weird. And then, like, he, like, said, "Oh, well, we're engaged dating." And she's like, "What the hell is that?" And at this event, there were, like, other, like, reality star people there, and
Mhm.
yeah. And then then she met Ashley, and yeah, this was like a whole thing. This was interesting too, like, she said she talks about, this event she kinda talks about, like, what it's like to be part of Bachelor Nation, and she's like, "It's like a private high school on steroids," and she goes, like, "There are cliques within cliques and all this stuff," and she goes, "Not many people know that Vienna Girardi and country singing bad boy Wes Hayden had a thing after she broke up with Jake Pavelka." I was like, "Ooh, a little tidbit, thank you." That was still one of, like, the most interesting, um, relationships on the show ever. I mean, that was an interesting villain story, but I really also have more sympathy for Vienna than I do for
Mhm.
Jake at this point, and I don't
Yeah.
think I felt that way, when the show came out, so it's so interesting how we change points with those things. Oh, yeah, and then she also wanted to do, like, a vegan cookbook, and he was like, "Why? Like, why do you think you can do a cookbook?" Like, he just, like, talked down to her. Every
Yeah,
time
he,
she
like,
had, like,
didn't
a
support her
good idea, he
or,
was
like,
like,
any
"No."
idea. He's like, "No, no, no."
No, that's terrible. Do you know how
Yeah.
many harebrained ideas I bring into this house, and every single one of them, Chuck goes, "That sounds great. You should do that." I'm like, "I think I wanna try to develop a video game." He's like, "Well, that sounds right up your alley. You should try to do that." And I'm
Sure,
like,
why not?
He'll never," like, I mean, every once in a while he goes, "Are you sure that's maybe that's the thing that's too far?" But
Mhm.
it's like, I say so many wild things in this house, and he'll just go, "Yeah, that sounds good. You should do that. I think you can do that." It's like, I can't imagine being with someone who's like,
Not
"You
supportive at
you
all.
can't do that." Like, what
Yeah.
the hell's wrong? So rude. Okay, I know I'm just, like, piling on at this point, but I'm just, like, paging through all the things that I highlighted that I'm like, "God, he just." Yeah, she goes, "When we'd be apart, he'd call me and ask, 'What are you doing today?' When I told him, he rarely liked the answer. He seemed annoyed and resentful. 'Why don't you do something dynamic? Why don't you paint? Why don't you go to a museum?'
Why
It's like,
don't you
she
do
wants to
something
write a cookbook.
dynamic?
Why is that not dynamic
I
enough for you?
know.
She wanted to be on Dancing with the Stars. Why is that not dynamic enough for
Yeah,
you?"
do you not like free money, sir? Like, what?
It's like she could have been on Dancing with the Stars, and she could have used that to launch a vegan cookbook.
Mhm.
Hello? Oh, Courtney, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that
Oh,
happened to you.
it's okay, she seems happy now, she's married, she's got 3 kids. Come on.
And this is interesting too. This is making more sense too. I need to spend more time on his LinkedIn because I forgot that she mentioned that he made more than $1 million from an online marketing company he sold when he was younger. She goes, but he had blown a lot of the money living large and traveling all over Europe. Yeah, and he like it's like he'd gamble in Vegas, win $5,000 and buy a used Jeep, even though he had a new BMW. Like it's just like, oh, and this is when she talks about the Cream Dream song. It's so bad. You need to watch it. I don't blame you if you don't make it past 15 seconds because I don't
No.
think I can make it past 15
It's a
seconds.
it's a
Yeah.
gauntlet of
Yeah.
punishment.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the JP and then she talks about the JP and Ashley hangout, and there is a little segment about from Michelle Money in there as well. Um, but they go to this, like, fancy dinner with them, and this is weird too, like, because it's like, this is the person that Ashley turned down, right? But I mean, whatever. But he's, like, talking about wine, and Ashley says to JP, like, "This is sexy. I wish you knew more about wine." I'm like, "That's kinda weird. Why would you say that? Like, don't say that."
Don't ever
But,
say
like,
that.
JP was, like, pretty chill, so, he was like, "Whatever, it's funny." Um and then Ben was like, "Should we split this?" And it was like an $800
Oh
bill.
my gosh, yeah, and he was
After
the
she
one
was
that was
like, "I'm
ordering all the
stressed about
expensive stuff.
money." Yeah, after she's like, "I'm stressed about money," and he, like, turned down her chance to make a ton of money, like,
The
ugh,
worst. The
yeah.
absolute worst.
And then it's like and then he's it's like, "Oh, well, we're competing with this other couple," and I'm like, "Oh, I love how you know your way around the city. You're so sexy." Like, go fuck yourself, man. You suck so bad.
The worst.
Um, oh yeah, and there was a little Chris Bukowski segment in here too. I'll let you read that, everybody. I'm telling you, read this book. It's a good book. Oh yeah, and then he's talking about Fernet. Yeah. The company found out he was a fan of the liquor and made him an ambassador of the brand. So that was the Fernet that he was an ambassador
Mhm.
of.
Okay.
But then he also, I mean, it must be, right? Cuz it must be. Um but then, yeah, it's like, what does it say? Like co-founder or something? So I don't
Mhm.
know. Anyway, I'm just saying, maybe there are some puffed up credentials on his LinkedIn. Maybe. Who's to say? Not sure.
Anything's
I'll have
possible.
anything's possible. You can say anything on the internet. Nobody knows
Mhm.
you're a dog. So let's see. And then, yeah, this was another weird thing. This is like a red flag. I dated a guy like this where it was like, he never wanted to spend, like, one-on-one time together. It was, like,
Mhm.
always, like, with friends and with a group, and I'm like, "I just wanna hang out with you. I don't wanna, like, always
Yeah, why do you
be
wanna hang out with all
doing
these other
stuff."
people? Yeah, you don't need a
Like, it's just
pasty.
yeah, and then it was, like it was also, like, he'd take me like, one time he, like, took me to, like, 4 places in one night, and I couldn't spend more than, like, 20 minutes at a place before he's like, "We're going to the next place," and I'm like, "I don't." And he had taken me to an arcade. And then I was playing a game and he was like, "We're leaving." And I barely got to play one game. Do you know what happens if you take me to an arcade and say we have to go in 20
In
minutes?
20 that's crazy. You
Me
can't
at
do
an
that.
arcade.
Yeah. No,
Sammy,
that's
leave in 20 minutes?
no,
I was like, "You
never.
don't even know me at all." I was like so upset. I was like,
Try
"I could
20
be here."
hours, buddy.
Yeah, I'm like, "I could be here till bar close. You don't even know." Like, I was so upset. Yeah, so, like, that was, like, the kind of relationship they had too, where it was like, we always have to be, like, with other people at these events and at these dinners and whatever, and it's like, ugh, yeah. Oh, and this was interesting too. At one point when they were together, he told her that she was naive for not realizing that he had done the show to promote his winery. Sleazy, scummy.
He's like, "I'm a scumbag, and you're dumb for not knowing that."
Yeah, and it's like and she's just like, "This is my job. I'm just talking about the job I have." And they're like, "You're just trying to get famous." And she's like, "I kind of am already. Just gotta tell you that." Like,
Mm.
um, Ben's handler got married. Oh yeah, this was interesting too. She got to talk about like some of the people that she meets at. Oh yeah, this was the Emily Jeff thing. Yeah, Jeff with one F. And they were, like, already fighting, like, they had just gotten together and they were, like, already fighting,
Mhm.
and they had just come back from, like, a mission trip or something like that. Because remember, Jeff was, like, Mormon
Yeah.
and weird. Um, yeah, and he was just like, "There's some differences between us. She likes to be inside and not do a lot. I'm more social." And Courtney said, "Oh, you'll be fine once you get into a normal routine." I lied. I could tell Emily and Jeff were doomed. And yeah, apparently he was like yeah, and she called him, like, boring and stuff, like, Emily called him boring, like, "Ooh." She called
Yeah.
him Jeff Borman. Yeah, really
Oh
bad. And
god.
then, yeah, he was in so then Ben was in this flirty text relationship, like we said, with a PR rep for Fernet. And yeah, that whole thing was so strange. Um, and she had like given him a massage or something. Oh no, that
Yeah.
was a different one.
No,
A
that
girl
that
who had
was a
been
different girl
caught
that
giving
she
him
had.
a shot.
The
Yeah.
girl who gave a massage in the park? That's so
Yeah, and she
weird.
goes, "You're the girl from the massage pictures." Yeah, it's so bad. This was the one where, yeah, it's like they had, oh yeah, there was like an event in Vegas. There's like all, anyway, what you need to know is that he sucks basically. And then, yeah, and then she and corners him about this like flirty text relationship with this PR rep, and he's like, "We're just friends. You can go through my phone." You know. Um yeah, and she's like, "Every time I see your phone, her name keeps popping up." Agreed.
Mm.
But then it's like they'd make up. So it's just like they never had like a normal decent relationship.
No, it was
And
always up
then,
and down.
yeah, and then Ari comes into the picture.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
after they break up, well, I mean, so first of all, like, Ben is super jealous because he could tell that, like, Ari has a crush on her, and she kinda has, like, she's like, "Oh, he's cute." And then after, the Ben and Courtney's relationship finally explodes as it should have way
Mhm.
before it did, then she gets to hook up with the kissing bandit, and she's like, I believe she said it was the best sex she'd ever had,
Yes.
and she had nothing but kind things to say about him until she gets to the end. She's like, but actually, the whole time he was dating a born again virgin, and so
Yeah, she's like, yeah, so he's kinda like a skeezy guy too. I mean, we all know Ari's skeezy.
oh, totally,
But she was like, "Hey, it was fun, whatever." And then,
yeah,
like, they were, like, kinda dating, like, in secret, and then she's like, "Let's go out." And then, like, like, it was, like, someone at a table next to them, like, took a picture,
yeah,
and then it was everywhere, and Ben's like, "How could you betray my trust?" And I'm just like, Dude, you don't he cannot lay claim to Courtney. After the way that you treated her, if you think that she owes you anything, you're so delusional. Like,
hmm,
absolutely, she does not owe you a single thing. Um, I will say, I won't say what Courtney's Halloween costume idea was with Ben, but I will say that's the one thing he got right in the whole book is that it was a bad idea. But that's the only thing I'm gonna say. You can read it for yourself.
yep,
But yeah, like he's just like it's like I mean, I would say it's very well, we'll say self-centered behavior because I'm not gonna say that someone has a personality disorder like Emily does. But what I will say is it's very manipulative the way that Ben was acting, the way that she characterizes it, and it aligns with everything else that we have been able to see. So I am very inclined to believe everything that she said, to be honest.
hmm.
Um, yeah, and apparently Ben texted Courtney's dad when they broke up, and he said, "Sorry, it didn't work out. Thanks for letting me be a part of your family." And her dad said, "I can't believe you let her get away." Good dad, good dad.
Nice dad
We
move.
like Courtney's dad. I mean, Courtney's parents seem so cool. Um, oh yeah, and then Ari put kissing tips in this book. Okay? Like, you have to read it.
Really
It's
good.
so good. But I will say that one of his, kissing tips is incredibly out of date as well, because it's like, "Don't ask permission." Ari,
Let's grab her and do
ask
it.
for consent. Ask for consent, friends. Please, please do that. Um but yeah, like, it's kind of cute to see that yeah, so this is what Ben sent back to her after he found out. He said, "You just dug your own grave. Good luck gaining respect from anyone. I'm not here to protect you from negativity anymore. You lost all credibility that you built up after the last media disaster. It's really disappointing. Don't expect me to be on your side anymore. Our united front is out the fucking window. Have a nice ride on your own. Ta-ta."
Ta-ta.
And she goes, "I'm gonna read you this whole thing because it's oh my god, it's really long actually. Maybe I won't read you the whole thing because we're at 2.5 hours. Hope you're enjoying this. Really deep dive." She goes, "That united front has been out the window for quite some time. You're the one that gave up, not me. Remember that." And he goes, "You kissed the guy. How does that make you still miss me? It's been a week since we stopped talking and you're already going on dates in public. How stupid are you?" And she goes, "I do miss you badly. I wake up in the middle of the night crying. Not that you care. Looks like you've been off living it up. You let me go so easily. True." And he said, "Last week was an escape for me. You going on a date with Ari is the prime example why we didn't work. You never think about your actions." That is rich coming from him. I
I know, of
cannot
all people.
believe he said that. She goes, "Everyone makes mistakes, and I've forgiven you many times." And he goes, "Whatever. This is your bad, not mine. You're in a pickle. Have fun with that." She goes,
You're
"It
the
was one date. He called me," which she lied, and she admits she lied. She's like,
oh.
"Again, I'm sorry. I will always love you and will be there for you whether you like it or not." And he goes, "Not so sure anymore. Anyway, have fun with this. I do feel bad you put yourself in this situation. Frankly, I'm shocked." And apparently he even tried to call Ari.
And then Ari never
Seriously?
called him back.
No,
He just left
reminiscent
a
of my
voicemail.
ex, like, just instigating shit. Yeah. "Hey, man, I'm not mad at you. I just have a few questions." Like, Ari couldn't see through that. Yeah,
Yeah,
no
come on.
wonder he didn't call you back. Um, but yeah, then it was, like, this whole insult thing in the in the tabloids and stuff, and, um, yeah, and then but then Courtney was like, "Yeah, I was basically, like, brainwashed, so." Which is a really funny way to respond to that. Let's see. That's kind of the big stuff, I think. Um, who told her that? Oh, this was interesting too. She like dated David Spade for a hot second.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he said, "Well, I have to," well, he tried at least. He
Mhm.
goes, "Well, I have to admit, you are sort of tough to date. First, have to figure out if you're single. Then, I have to get you to answer the phone. Then, you have to say yes. Lining up all three of these things is sort of difficult." I really enjoyed his book, by the way. If you haven't read David Spade's book, I
I
recommend it. It was a
haven't.
really good book. Yeah, it was really good.
Uh,
So anyway, sank in a serious depression. Yeah, I mean, this basically, I mean, this kind of ruined her life for a while. Like, why
mhm.
would she want this? And why would she expect that this is what would happen? And why, it's like it doesn't make logical sense. If you come out the other side watching the season and reading this book and going, "Yes, Courtney is the villain and she is actually a bad person." I would
Mhm.
question your judgment on everything because it doesn't make any sense. Um this was interesting too. Okay, this is one of the last things. She, like, went to, like, a psychic,
Yeah.
and okay, this is interesting because she, like, went to the bathroom or something, and she was like, "Well, what if she sold our conversation in a tabloid?" And she came back from the bathroom, and she goes, "I was channeling your energy when you went to pee, and don't you worry, everything is completely private, much like a doctor." And she was like, "Oh, okay. Can you channel Ben then?" And she said, "He was standing there with his arms crossed, pouting like a little boy." She said he had a mental block because of his mother and that we were possibly together in a past life. She said he just didn't know what he wanted, but he really did love me. I would hear from him again when I turned 40. I had tears in my eyes. So now I want to know, did she hear from him? Like I need to know
Yeah, 'cause
when she turned
I think she's
40.
41, 42 now,
Yeah,
so
she just was 40 not too long ago. So I'm like, "Oh, I wonder," and I got to go on like old Reality Steve like episodes cuz she's done a lot of them. I'm like, "I wonder if he asked her around the time she turned 40 this question cuz
mhm.
I'd be dying to know if he like reached out and she would totally tell us if he did." So anyway, something to look forward to because this has given me all these other places I want to go. Now that I read this book, I'm like, I have so many questions. Oh my gosh, this was can you write 3 more books, Courtney? It was so good. Can you
Yeah,
get some of, like, the
keep it
best
going.
villains to write books? Like, we need more villain books. We need a Michelle Money book. We need a Demi book. We need these books. Um, but yeah, so, yeah, I mean, she was way too nice to him. She yeah, and, there was a clear the air thing that he did before she turned 40 in, 2013. And there was, like, apparently, like, this rumor that he had been dating Kris Jenner.
Oh, yeah, that was a weird part of the epilogue at the end. It's like, "What?"
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, no young Sonoma to be found, so, yeah.
Mm-mm.
Um, yeah, so I don't know about all the and then, yeah, Jenna Burke not only hooked up with Jeff Holm, but she also hooked up with Sean Lowe after a charity event sponsored by her iced coffee company, Real Beans, in September 2012. A week later, he was announced as the next Bachelor. Jenna was devastated. She truly thought they had a connection. Sorry, he married a different blogger. So,
Yeah,
wasn't you. He picked a
happens.
vegan blogger. So, sorry about that. Um, yeah, and I forgot that KCB was on Sean's season for a hot second.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I think those are kind of like the big ones. Chris lives in Palm Beach, Florida, and runs the raw food empire Christopher's Kitchen. He had a baby boy in December 2013. Oh yeah, Adrian Grenier still booty call texts Courtney to this day. I mean, 2013.
Yeah, why
The
not?
last time he wrote her, he asked, "Are you still on that show?" There's a good chance he has no idea she wrote this book or that he's in it. It was a really good book. I really liked it. The pictures at the end were really cute too. I thought that they were like totally adorable.
No.
Yeah, so I recommend it. Any closing thoughts since I just like spent 2.5 hours talking at you?
No, 10 out of 10. It's a great read.
Yeah.
It's insightful. It gives you like a behind the scenes look at the process. It gives you an in-depth kind of breakdown of an actual season from the perspective of someone who was on the show. And it's just nice. It's breezy. It's good. So if you haven't read it and you're a Bachelor fan, highly recommend.
Yeah, I know we like basically recounted the whole book to you because it's so good and there were so many moments that I had highlighted, but I mean, that's how good it is. It's a good fast read. If you haven't read Bachelor Nation and you haven't read this book, those are like the two essential reads I would
Mhm.
say you've got to do. You've got to do. We'll probably read more Bachelor Nation things, but we'll try maybe before my winter break is over, do a Secret Lives of Mormon Wives special episode for season
Mm,
1 before season 2 comes out.
favorite.
Yeah, I gotta rewatch it and take notes this time, but I'm excited to rewatch it because what a season, what a
Oh,
show.
what a
And there's
show.
so much drama happening, like, on TikTok, and, I mean, it's just so interesting. So, friends, until we do our next special episode or until the next season starts, take care of yourselves. This is right before New Year's Eve. So, pick a resolution or a focus word or just resolve to get more sleep
Oh,
and
use that.
and don't suffer fools. Do whatever you want, whatever resolution you want.
And don't do needle drugs. Why don't you
Maybe that's your
that's
resolution.
a good resolution. Just don't do them. Don't
Just
ever do them.
don't do them.
Don't ever do
You
them.
know, yeah. Not even. Don't even do them, and then say, "Oh, but next year I won't."
Yeah,
Don't do
no,
it.
no.
Mm-mm.
Nip it in the bud.
This was long.
I mean,
I
we
had a lot
covered
to say.
a full season and a book, basically.
That's true. So for what it's worth, it was actually really short.
Mhm.